And welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Joe Rexrode. Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We've got a lot to talk about here on the show today. Lots of Preds talk coming your way. They'll take on the Detroit Red Wings tonight. John Hines, Predators coach, joining us at 7:30. Craig Custance from The Athletic at 8 o'clock. John Glennon from Broadway Sports. We'll get into some Titans talk with him at 8:30. And then Hal Gill, Predators radio analyst, at 9:30. So lots still to come today here on the show. Lots to get into. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, how are we doing? What's going on?
Doing all right. A little worried about the weather today.
Yeah, it could get a little dicey out there today. I think the last I saw going to be a little rainy this morning, and then in the afternoon things could get real here.
Yeah, so think about your shelter now.
Yeah.
And your plan, because I think this afternoon into the evening there's a chance for some serious stuff.
Absolutely. So we'll keep you monitored and keep you abreast of all that today here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Very familiar with severe weather in this area, and this is the time of year where things could start to get cranked up a little bit. So definitely we'll have our eyes on that as the day progresses throughout the day here today. So the Predators back in action tonight, Joe, taking on the Detroit Red Wings. A big win against the Red Wings the other night, 2-0 for UC Saros. And now you look at the standings, and the Predators are 4 points behind the Chicago Blackhawks for that fourth spot in the Central Division. They're 2 points behind Columbus, who is taking on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Chicago back in action against the Florida Panthers. And as we know, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the Predators now in a position that not many people expected them to be in again this season, and that is close to the playoffs. And I think a lot of that has had to do with Chicago coming back down to earth, looking more like the Chicago that we thought they'd look like to begin the season. Now certainly catchable in that regard. Columbus has been very up and down this season, as the Predators have seen firsthand. And it's got Predators fans kind of in a conundrum right now because you are 4 points away from a playoff spot. I think a lot of Predators fans feel like the best course of action long-term remains that you become a seller at the deadline, whether it's a full-on sell or the soft sell idea that Adam Vingan, your cohort at The Athletic, threw out there yesterday as well. So the question we have for Predators fans today is this: what do you want the Predators to do over the next few weeks as they continue to play well, continue to have a schedule that should be relatively favorable for them moving forward here with games coming up against Detroit and Chicago as well? What is your plan for the Nashville Predators? Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, as you listen to all I've just rambled through there, what is your plan for the Nashville Predators as they go through this stretch here with a softer schedule coming up and only 4 points out of a playoff spot in the Central Division?
Well, it's not stand pat and it's not buy, okay? There's nothing I'm going to see on the ice that will make me say stand pat or buy. I don't think you can do it, and you have to keep it all in the context of where the thing has been going for the last few years. I can do a visual.
You can, streaming live now.
Visual aid. It's going down. And so you have to change some things. Oh, is that my computer?
Yes, it
darn
is.
I look at
little concert in the background.
Sorry, I'm looking at the NHL page on ESPN. They got some sweet guitar music with their hockey highlights.
There you go.
So forget those. Those two, forget them. Yeah, I guess if you want to dice it up of the two types of selling, does that mean the other type is hard sell? Is that soft sell and hard sell?
Yeah.
Okay. You trade your expiring contracts, I think. Especially like Granlund will bring something back.
Yes.
I think you have to do that. And the whole Ellis Ekholm thing, it's not like those are the only two players who could be moved, but it's an interesting situation. I would definitely, if it was actually a choice, if it was actually on the table, that you would trade Ellis and you could get the same return. I think it's easy, but if it's only Ekholm, that's actually a possibility. I don't know. When you get to that specific player, then that's tough. But also, man, if you're going to do let's call it whatever you want to call it, a retool, how are you going to do that effectively if you can't? And again, how are you not going to take some kind of a long-term view and replenish your coffers? I mean, I think you have to do something bigger than just the expiring contracts.
Well, I think that's certainly still very likely to be on the table for the Predators. And this is an interesting question because I do think there is a way to do both. Like, I think you can sell and still take your shot at the playoffs. Like, you got to remember, while they've gotten in this stretch and while they've started to play better, young players have been a big part of this. Eeli Tolvanen has been a huge part of what we've seen in the turnaround. Of course, you still got Philip Forsberg. Ryan Johansson started to play a little bit better. Roman Josi coming back in is going to help. All those veteran guys that you've gotten used to, you're glad to have in your lineup. You're glad to be back in there. But young players have been a big part of this. They've played 10 rookies at this point this year. So this has been something that's been happening for a while. The youth movement that everybody was clamoring for to begin the season, it didn't happen in the way I think that anybody anticipated, but it's happened at this point, and young players have gotten their chance. So I agree. My approach to this, if I'm David Poile, hasn't really changed based on if you were in a certain spot 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I'm not sure I'd be in any different of a spot now if I was him. That is the way I would handle it. Now, if that's the way, is that going to be the way David Poile handles it? I don't know. I mean, I'm not David Poile, and I can't speak for him, but that would be the way that I would handle this situation. I think you've got to sell off your assets that are on expiring contracts. You're not going to be bringing, I don't think, any of those guys back. So get something for them while you can. Continue to stockpile some picks and some prospects if you can do that. And if you can do that while giving your younger players some more playing time and they continue to play well and you find yourself in the 4th seed at the end of it, great. That's great for everybody involved. Is it going to happen? I don't know. Is it likely? Maybe not if you go with a young lineup. But to me, that's the way I would handle this because it keeps coming down to the same question for me. The only way that I am standing pat or that I am buying, which is not even a realistic possibility to me, would be if I am convinced that this team is a Stanley Cup contender. And I don't know how, based on what we've seen thus far, anyone could be convinced that they're a Stanley Cup contender.
No. Of course, there's always the examples. The Preds have their own example of being an 8 seed and making a run. But the question is also, are you, if you're an 8 seed, if that's what you are, that's not a sustainable, the next year they won the President's Trophy. So
they were clearly building up.
Yeah, right. They were going in the right direction, and I don't think that they were 8 seed quality even in that year. I mean, they had their ups and downs. They had injuries. We know what happened. They were not that. This would be a backdoor into the playoffs, and you are thrilled to be the 8 seed, right?
Yeah.
So that is different, and it's a different trajectory, and it's just an organization that needs more talent in it. Again, for 2 and 4 and 6 years down the road, too, you have to think about those things some.
You do, and we've talked for years now at this point about the need to have players coming in and start to contribute on entry-level contracts, whether that's Eeli Tolvanen or Jeremy Davies has been in there. I know he was out last game. Alex Carrier coming in as well. You need cheaper guys coming in to get yourself in better position salary cap-wise as they move forward as well. I think you're going to naturally start to see some of that come about next year with some of the younger players I expect to be a part of this lineup. But seeing what you have with these guys as you move forward, not a bad plan. I don't know whether or not we're going to see at this point Philip Tomasino, depending on how the rest of this season goes. If they're right in the thick of it for the playoffs, maybe the best thing to do would be to just keep him in the AHL and let him play. I don't know. I mean, that absolutely could be the best thing for his long-term development. But he's going to be a part of things in the not-too-distant future for this group. So you're already trending that way anyway to getting younger and giving opportunities to some of these young guys. And quite frankly, I think they've earned it. I think a lot of these guys have earned opportunities moving forward here So I think you can accomplish both. Do I think it's likely like the Predators are going to end up in the playoff spot? Like of the 3 teams right now that are right in the thick of it with Columbus and Chicago and the Predators, do I think that they're the most likely to end up there? Probably not. I don't think so. I would probably give the slight edge to Columbus there, even though their schedule is a little bit tougher at this point. And Dallas has 4 games in hand on everyone, and they're only 3 points back of the Predators right now. Now, they also have not been playing very well as of late, so you don't really know what you're going to get out of Dallas.
But they should be that team.
They should
be, but they're also going to be playing like 4 or 5 games a week.
I know.
Because of all the games that got postponed early in the
season. They're
season.
already just totally banged up anyway.
Right. I have not trusted the Stars all season long.
No. And the injuries, I mean, even from the Stanley Cup final with Ben Bishop not being available, Sagan not being available, Rick Bowness, Stars coach the other day, basically said, yeah, like Alex Radilov's going to be a game-time decision every day from here on out. Rope Hintz is going to be a game-time decision every single game from here on out. That's kind of the position they're in right now, and I think they're not going to be alone in that moving forward. With the schedule being what it's been, this is going to be difficult on teams down the stretch here.
I mean, look, the Preds have 6 games against the Blackhawks the rest of the year.
Yeah, those are huge.
If they were to own the Blackhawks down the stretch, they're going to put themselves in a position to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're still talking about a team that's 15, 17, and 1 with a negative 24 goal differential.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, so it's been a nice little revival here. Like, get to 500.
Yeah.
And I'm like, honestly, even if they do, I'm not going to really change how I feel about it. But maybe I'm a little leaning toward the soft sell, I guess, which, you know, do we give Vingen credit for this term?
He didn't invent that. I've heard that before. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Vingen.
Sure. We can give him credit if we want to.
I mean, for me, you know, I had not heard it before him.
Okay.
Well, when you say soft sell, I think of soft shells from Taco Bell.
Really?
Now I'm hungry for tacos.
At 6:12 in the morning.
Yes.
Okay.
I think of Soft Cell, the early 80s Brit pop band.
Who?
That one's on you.
Oh, you know. You know two songs, I promise you.
Okay. Maybe we'll have to hear those
We'll
in break.
have to have bump music from Soft Cell today.
Okay. We'll continue the discussion on the Predators when we come back. We're off and running here today on Robby and Rexrode, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well, so you can view us on those platforms if you so choose at 102.5 The Game. When we come back, we'll get into the Ekholm-Ellis discussion a little bit more. John Hines, some interesting comments on Matthias Ekholm the other day as well. All that coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Ah, yes, a little soft sell, apparently. Coming back in from break here.
There you go.
Tainted Love. What a song.
I mean, everybody loves Soft Cell. Right?
I didn't even know I did, but yeah.
You love that song?
I love that song.
We all love that song.
Tainted Love.
Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the answer. Does David Poyle, that song
Does he also love that song?
That song came out right around the time David Poyle began his career as a GM.
Okay, then.
Right around then. About 82, 83. When was his first year as GM? 83? Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go.
If memory serves correctly, but yeah.
Perhaps he was rocking out with a Walkman to soft cell.
Maybe so.
Jogging.
Did you do that, Joe?
I mean, it was on the radio as a young child. I don't think I ever had a soft cell album, but it was one of those songs that was on and it's one of those songs that I was thrilled in the 90s when we started getting these 80s CDs you could buy, right?
Have everything
in
right
college,
there.
In college, we had an 80s party. I had to be one of the first one ever. And that was on one of them. But back then, I don't think I had soft cell on my Walkman.
You had an 80s party in the 90s? That's pretty impressive.
You better believe it.
That's awesome.
Actually, it was an early 80s party, though.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
So
soft cell,
time. Okay.
yes. Anything after 85 was not allowed. It was
not
all
permissible.
85 and before. Yeah,
Okay.
but soft cell would have been jammed that night for sure.
For sure. Speaking of soft sell, that's
Hey.
part of our poll question.
There we
today
go.
At 1025 The Game on Twitter. Today's question is this. What would you like to see the Predators do at the trade deadline? And the options are hard sell, soft sell, stand pat, or buy. Very early in the voting. We literally just put the poll question up about a minute and 30 seconds ago.
Has anyone responded?
Yeah, 12 votes so far.
Jeez.
People are up and at 'em today on the Twitter. 58% say hard sell so far. 17% say soft sell. 17% say stand pat, and 8% say buy. There are people out there that want to buy.
Well, one person.
Yeah.
12 votes.
Yeah.
One person said buy. Who are you? Who are you? Show yourself.
was
You
it
better
Porth?
be the only person.
Porth, was it you?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
this
checking.
is like a Blackhawks fan trolling.
Could be. I don't
Trolling
know.
the press. Come on. Buy. Come on.
Could be.
Who Are You is another song from the 70s and 80s.
See, look at there.
Buy.
The Who?
Very good.
Wow. Look at it.
Porth's on a roll.
He's on a
musically.
roll today. So we'll
Musical.
continue to monitor the results of that poll question all show long here on the show at 1025 The Game on Twitter. What would you like to see the Predators do at the trade deadline? Go hit up the poll question and voice your response. Joe, we talked some last week about Ekholm and Ellis, and actually that wasn't last week, that was Monday, so that seems like forever ago at this point. So earlier this week about Ekholm and Ellis, and a piece coming out from Elliot Friedman on the 31 Thoughts podcast saying, all right, well, maybe the Predators do have a decision to make if that's the route they decide to go between Mattias Ekholm and Ryan Ellis. And Ellis right now obviously has been hurt. John Hines says last week that he had surgery. So that is an option to keep in mind if you're the Predators. If you're a team out there that's looking for immediate help at the trade deadline, I don't know that Ryan Ellis is going to check that box this year because we don't know when or if he's going to be available again this season. Mattias Ekholm, we do know, is available right now on the ice and has played extremely well for the Nashville Predators as of late. They've dealt with injuries up and down their lineup. Yossi's been out up until the last game. Ellis, as we've talked about, lots of injuries at forward as well. And Ekholm has been called on to really kind of lead this team through this over the last stretch here. And I asked Predators head coach John Hines about Mattias Ekholm specifically and what he's seen from him from that aspect after the Preds went against the Red Wings on Tuesday night. Here's what Predators head coach John Hines had to say.
With Roman out for a while and obviously with Ellis gone, Eki was going to be back there, kind of our mainstay decor guy, the guy with the most experience. And as you said, I think his play on the ice has spoken for itself, but he's really stepped up, and just his demeanor around the locker room, what he says in between periods, the way that he's practiced, things he says on the bench, he's really taken a step. You can see his personality come out a little bit more. I think his demeanor, and it's good to see. It's actually something we talked with him prior to the year about, was coming in, and he's always a guy that is going to show up and play hard, and he's a warrior of a player. But his next evolution as a leader, a guy that wears a letter, is holding people accountable, saying the right things, being more vocal. It's one of the things we've talked with him about. And I'd say this last stretch, he's really taken a strong step. And I think he's a big reason, not only why we had success on the ice, but I think he's also a big reason why the team's really come together.
So that was John Hines, obviously very complimentary of Mattias Ekholm and everything that he's done, not only on the ice, which has been, I think, taken to even higher of a level than we were used to as of late from Mattias Ekholm, but also talked about kind of his leadership and how he's helped carry the Predators through this. The more I watch Mattias Ekholm play and the more I hear things like that coming out of the locker room that I think we knew about Mattias Ekholm anyway, but are now just being reinforced, the more if I'm the Predators, I'm thinking very long and hard about trading that guy. To me, this is sounding more and more like a player you want to be a part of the solution as they move forward here.
I don't disagree. I'm kind of surprised because obviously we see, well, we used to see, and hopefully will again. So what it looks like when we're allowed in there versus when we're not, and there's often big differences there. But I would have already tabbed Ekholm as a voice in the room. It's interesting to hear that he has increased that. I don't know. Am I off base on that?
No,
I've always thought, again, like with us, he's always been one of the better talkers.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean, the two don't always match up, but, again, like how he plays, like Hines said there, the warrior of a player, I would have I always have assumed that he was one of the more important voices in there. And maybe just not quite captain level because not quite player level of a Yossi.
Right.
But it's interesting to hear that he's increased that. And, that probably makes it even more difficult to think about parting with him.
Yeah, I found that interesting too. I think it's obvious the Predators feel that way about Yossi and Ellis. I mean, they created a captaincy spot that really doesn't exist for other teams around the league for Ryan Ellis. He's the associate captain. I mean, so they couldn't name both of them.
That's somewhere else.
Right? Is it? I mean, it could be. I just don't. I don't remember.
I've seen some A's around the league.
Well, there's A's, but they usually don't stand for associate captain. It's usually just assistant.
Oh, right. The difference between associate and
yes.
That's like that's like college athletics, like the associate AD and then the assistant AD.
That's right.
Good call.
Exactly. Same letter though.
That's an interesting. I hadn't thought about this. Is he the only associate captain?
I don't know. I'd have to look. Maybe not.
That's an interesting question.
But I think it shows you, like, when you're making the decision going from Fisher being the captain, I think they thought long and hard about both Yossi and Ryan Ellis and decided that, they're basically the same.
Yeah. I remember at the time, I think I wrote in the Tennessean, I predicted that Ellis would be the captain.
Yep.
Just demeanor-wise. But obviously it's very close.
Yes, very close. But the point of saying that is I've always kind of viewed Ekholm the same way in terms of what he means in that room. And I think he has meant that. I think he has been a guy in the room that people look to. Now, has he been probably as vocal as he's had to be over the last couple of weeks? Probably not. And maybe that's where the ascension has come from. And we'll ask John Hines about this at 7:30 as well when he joins us today here on the show. But I do think, with Ellis not being in there and Yossi not being in there and the young guys that have come in, it's a different type of leadership when you've got a younger team as opposed to when you've got a veteran team. I think when you've got a veteran team, there's a whole lot more of letting your play on the ice do the talking and doing the leading. Like everybody in the room, when you've got a veteran group, generally speaking, they know what to do and know what they're doing out there. Younger guys sometimes need a little bit more. Coddling's not the right word, but they need to be brought along a little bit more. And I think Ekholm, probably especially in that regard, when you factor in, he's been playing with Carrier, you've had Davies in the lineup, you've had Ben Harper in the lineup. There's been a lot of young pieces in there. I think being vocal, even Fabro, a guy that still is young on that back end there, he's probably had to do a whole lot more of that over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what if you just trade Ekholm and Ellis? What kind of haul could you get back then?
There have been some people that have floated that out. I don't think there's any way that happens, but I shouldn't say any way that happens. I would be very surprised if that happens. But you could get a haul back, that's for sure. You get a lot back in return.
Then you'd know exactly, who.
Yeah.
If it matches up,
You would.
What about a Taylor Hall?
I'd stay away from that guy.
Everywhere he goes, just
Craters.
yes, just awful
Except apparently Arizona last year.
against the Predators.
They did
the
win.
Predators.
He won a playoff series.
But the team he's on now has lost what?
15 in a row.
I was going to guess about 30.
Yeah. 15 games in a row. They
Actually,
lost in a shootout last night.
I thought it was 16 now.
Now it's 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many of those are overtime losses?
There's a few.
So they got a couple points in there.
Yeah.
Yay.
There's 6 wins on the year. We're over halfway through the season. There you got 6 wins.
How are they doing in the so Ottawa's still Anaheim actually. No, I am sorry. Look at that. The Sabres actually have the worst goal differential. They're minus 45 now. Ducks and Ottawa
That'll
right
happen when
behind
you're
them.
6-21-4.
They've been shut out as many times as they've won games.
Yeah, they've been shut out 6 times this year. They've won 6 games.
Incredible.
It's hard to do.
My gosh.
So if you think things have been bad here for Nashville, go look at Buffalo. Things have not been going very well.
And also
for the
just
Buffalo Sabres.
in general, I mean, you could be a Sabres fan
Yeah.
because it's not like this is new in Buffalo.
No, this has been going on for a minute.
And also, we've talked about this with Buffalo. They are one of the teams that got the guy in the rebuild,
Still not going
right? And obviously have been mismanaged
Grossly.
and now they're
beyond
going
that.
to trade that guy.
And now that
he's
guy's
probably
about
gonna
to
end up
leave.
going. Yeah.
Yes.
So things going really well for the Buffalo Sabres as of late. We'll continue the conversation on the Nashville Predators throughout the show. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. When we come back, we'll switch gears and get into the hot topic in the NFL right now, and that is Deshaun Watson and the sexual assault allegations that continue to pile up. We had Charles Robinson on earlier this week from Yahoo Sports, who had some interesting thoughts on that situation. We'll revisit those next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. How'd you like to watch the Preds game in style? Make sure you're tuning in later on in the show as we reveal a keyword for you to text into the game line at 615-737-1025 for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Home Gate. It's your chance to watch a weekend Preds game with a Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. You must be 21 or older to enter, and we'll have that opportunity coming up for you a little bit later here in the show. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth coming to you live on this Thursday morning and streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe, we had our good friend Charles Robinson on from Yahoo Sports on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Joins us every Tuesday at 9 o'clock here on the show. And we talked about the hot news in the NFL, and that is Deshaun Watson and the sexual assault allegations that seemingly by the day continued to come in against him. I think by last count, he was up to 16 lawsuits against him alleging sexual assault, with more coming in yesterday. I believe 2 new lawsuits were filed yesterday in Harris County, Texas. So we talked to Charles about this a couple of days ago, about where this could be going from here, how this could, how long this could drag out, how long this could last for Deshaun Watson, and just exactly what this looks like from a legal standpoint at the moment. Here's what Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports had to say.
I think people are like, well, how's this affect his trade value? Like, people need to back off that, okay? Like, how does this affect his ability to move forward with his job? Criminality, did this or did this not happen? And I've had a chance to talk to a couple of teams that were interested in Deshaun Watson prior to all these incidents. And what's clear to me is you have 2 things that have to happen here. Number one, whoever the team is, forget the fact that the league and Lisa Friel, they're doing their own investigation. Forget, what's going on with these lawyers kind of going back and forth. If a team's even going to consider trading for Deshaun Watson, they have to be 100% convicted that he is innocent of all these allegations. 100%. Because they're going to have to throw their full weight behind his innocence once he is acquired. And then once they clear that hurdle, hey, we believe he's 100% innocent, we've done all our due diligence, then somebody has to go to the league, whether it's the owner, a general manager, a coach, whatever an organization can bring to bear, has to go to Roger Goodell and say, hey, are we onboarding someone who's going to be, on the commissioner's exempt list, potentially suspended? We need some kind of guidance from the league here to know what we could be getting ourselves into from a league perspective.
So that was Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, who joined us earlier this week. And, Joe, you hear what Charles had to say there, and then also factor in what he was talking about these cases specifically that he's combed through, and how there's not really any sort of pattern in terms of the victims and, what race they are or how old they are. It just kind of goes all over the map a little bit in this with things that he's looked through. And you call Charles Robinson one of the best investigative reporters out there. This is very disturbing. A lawsuit filed earlier this week called him, quote, a serial predator. Quote, Watson's behavior is part of a disturbing pattern, and the plaintiff believes Watson to be a serial predator. This is not looking good for Deshaun Watson. Up to 16 lawsuits that have been filed at this point. And right now, like in terms of just his NFL future, number one, that's not the first thing on my mind at this moment. But number two, it's looking more and more likely to me he's not going to be playing at all this year for the Texans or anyone else.
Yeah, so Charles's colleague, Dan Wetzel, and we should have him on at some point here soon. Dan Wetzel's one of the best columnists out there. Also, he's very good with with cases like this. I mean, Dan Wetzel did the most important reporting and commenting on the entire Joe Paterno thing, for example. But he has a piece that ran last night about Jane Doe 15. It's an important point, and of course, he sought out a legal expert on this. But the Jane Doe 15, as Dan writes, could be one of the most problematic. Is the most problematic right now because of contemporaneous reporting. Now, what that is and sometimes these lawsuits get rolling, and you'll have people join on.
Yeah.
And so something goes public, as this did, and then people say, yeah, that was me too, that was me, all that, which, happens, but legally the other side can say, well, you just joined on, and you're just saying this now after this became public. Well, Jane Doe 15 has record of the day of this alleged situation in which she went to his house, of reaching out to her mother and her best friend about it. And that's actually really important legally, because what it is confirmation that before this became something, which is, again, what the defense side is going to argue. You are just trying to get money because this became a story, and you're just saying, yeah, that happened to me too. Well, this is evidence that on that day, this woman, Jane Doe 15, was so upset that she reached out to her mother and her best friend. And so if that's confirmed and everything, that's a big problem on the legal side of things for Deshaun Watson. So it's an interesting piece he wrote at yahoo.com, and you go through it, there are more serious allegations than Jane Doe 15 in terms of the actual conduct of the situation.
Yep.
But that is a really important thing. And, yeah, it's just trying to keep an open mind on the entire thing, but anyone who now is looking at this like, this is just someone trying to get money from him, or this is just a lawyer, an ambulance chaser, blah, blah, blah. And I think this needs to die, the idea that, the Texans are doing this vindictively.
It makes no sense.
So basically, that would be the most mismanaged franchise in sports history, or maybe business history.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that they're trying to make this happen so that they can not only lose him but get nothing for him. That makes total sense.
Right.
I mean,
and
that was me being sarcastic, by the way. That's ridiculous. So it's real stuff. And again, this particular woman has has some information here that goes beyond what will be quickly argued against by the defense.
Yes, and, it's difficult. We're a sports show, and it's difficult for me to even think about, where he could end up being next. That's been the dominating story of the offseason is, all right, what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson? Who's going to trade for Deshaun Watson? What sort of package could you get back for him if you're the Texans? To me, all that's out the window right now. Number one, there's not going to be a team trading for him at this point until all this is cleared up. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So, to me, that story is dead for the moment. And right now, I'm wondering if it gets to a point, if this goes from some civil lawsuits to criminal action that ends up being taken at some point. Like the NFL, as Charles pointed out in that clip, they're going to do their own investigation, and he very well could receive some sort of discipline from the NFL, independent of what happens civilly or what happens legally. But I think everybody is wondering, is the next step of maybe criminal charges coming against Deshaun Watson at some point?
Well, and I keep hitting Dan Wetzel's piece here because, which again posted last night, I think at 9 o'clock on Yahoo. The actions just in Jane Doe 15. And again, there are more serious allegations within the range of the 16 people, but of Jane Doe 15, it's a potential violation of 22.012 of the Texas Penal Code, indecent assault, and that is punishable for up to a year in prison or a fine of $4,000. So that right there, for anybody who hasn't been following along, I mean, they have forwarded their information to the district attorney in Houston. No, nothing has come back from them yet, but it should not be surprising at all if it gets beyond just the civil case level here.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben texts in and says the Texans may not want him on the team now for all the negative publicity that could be on the way. I mean, maybe not.
I don't know.
I mean, they're not going to cut him. I mean, at least I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, it's just, but no, right now or anytime soon, no. But also, like you said, he's not going to get traded either. I mean, no one's going to take on that kind of risk at this point. So, I mean, I said yesterday, I feel like right now the most likely situation is that he's nowhere.
Yeah.
This year, and this plays out however long it takes, and then we'll see. I don't know. I mean, this could go a lot of different ways, or I guess one or two really main ways. But I mean, it could take a long time before there's resolution on him and his standing in the league. Look, there are players in this league, one who just won a ring, who had some serious stuff.
Yes.
Okay. And then there was a player on the team that lost who had some serious stuff. And we know that in this league, if you have talent and you are, you're not incarcerated, that someone is going to want you to be on their team. So, I mean, like I'm not sitting here saying this jeopardizes his entire career, but we also don't know everything about this, and people keep adding on to this case.
Yeah, and it's the number one story in the NFL right now, the number one story really in all of sports, and it's seemingly by the day more and more continues to come out, more and more continues to get added. So we'll continue to see what happens today as it relates to Deshaun Watson as well. When we come back, we'll stick in the NFL. Some news yesterday in the AFC South with a division rival for the Titans. What do we think of this division? Who's the biggest threat to the Titans right now, maybe repeating as AFC South champions? We'll talk about it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, and streaming live on YouTube, on Periscope, and on Twitch. Right now I'm talking all things NFL. And Joe, some news yesterday in the AFC South. A wide receiver that we've talked about here on the show, T.Y. Hilton, returning to the Indianapolis Colts on a one-year deal worth $10 million, including $8 million that is guaranteed. So good for T.Y. Hilton, making some money coming back in his 1 year with the Indianapolis Colts. But we thought maybe he could be on the move, could be out there and available for teams in free agency. Even discussed at one point whether or not you would bring him in if you were the Tennessee Titans. Now that he's back on the Colts, the offseason picture for the Colts starting to become a little bit more into focus with Carson Wentz taking over at quarterback. You've got T.Y. Hilton back into the fold, the second year of Michael Pittman being in there as well. So some pieces that you feel good about. Now they've lost to Nico Autry, obviously, coming over here to the Titans. What do you think of what the Colts have done so far this offseason? The move to bring in Carson Wentz, bringing T.Y. Hilton back in the fold. Obviously, I think most people would peg it as 1-2 in either order for the Titans and the Colts in the AFC South. The Texans are a dumpster fire. Who knows what it's going to look like with Jacksonville under Urban Meyer. So lots of people talking about these two teams being the two teams to watch in the AFC South. My question to you is, are the Colts any better? Like, does Carson Wentz come in, make any difference for them whatsoever? Are they a bigger threat to the Titans this year than they were a year ago?
Well, it's so much. I mean, the answer is win Wentz. I mean, that's what it's about. But so Hilton, did you say it was $10 million deal? $10 million deal.
$10 million deal.
Yeah,
$8 million guaranteed.
Eight guaranteed, right. Which I honestly a little high.
I thought so too.
I thought that's a little high for a guy coming back. You know, the guys coming back usually you expect it to be a little bit of a kind of like Jayon Brown, right? Who to me is making much less this year than I would have expected him to get. I don't know that I necessarily expect someone to pay him $12 million, but that was I'm going to come back where I'm comfortable, play for a year, and go back out there. It's pretty sweet for T.Y. to get 10, worth up to 10. So, I mean, obviously that means you got incentives tied to the last $2 million of that, but that's still a big number. It's good for them. I mean, he's obviously been such a good player. It's not bad to have another veteran receiver who can play. I don't know that it necessarily shakes things up. I mean, that whole question, and yeah, it's got to be a two-team race this year, right?
You would think.
I mean,
unless Trevor Lawrence comes in and that strength coach all that stuff in Jacksonville,
he just
lights it up.
Has he hired this?
I haven't seen another
the replacement strength coach.
I'm sure he has. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a great hire.
Sure was too.
But Urban's very unhappy that you can't meet with the free agents before you sign them.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, Urban, you're in the NFL now, man.
This is not college recruiting, but thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to guess he has a little bit of a rough first year, and I don't see, Houston. I mean, again, we just talked about last, and it's like you almost feel bad talking about the seriousness of that situation and then the football aspect of it, but the bottom line is, right now, I don't expect who is Houston's quarterback next year?
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, that's right. They got Taylor. So, you're talking about a two-team race. It's Titans, it's Colts. I don't want to forget any big moves the Colts have made here, but they haven't really made any big ones other than Wentz.
Right.
They have a good roster, though. I mean, we know they have. I would argue they definitely have a better roster than the Titans, other than at quarterback. I mean, not at running back too, but I mean overall they have a better roster. The difference between the teams, I guess, would be those two players. Although I like the Colts backs too, but.
I did find it interesting that Marlon Mack back with the Colts. You've got Jonathan Taylor, and he took a while to get going last year, and he finally did. And Marlon Mack got hurt in the first game of the season a year ago against Jacksonville, missed the entire season. I was surprised he's back in the fold, more of a running back by committee approach from the Colts. I like Marlon Mack. I think he's a really good player.
He is. Yeah, hey, if you can make it work to have depth there, great, because someone's going to get hurt. But I agree with you. You would think maybe it would be someone moving on in that situation, like with your beloved Packers.
Yes.
Mute issue.
That was
number 1-0. I'm ahead.
Thank you.
But because Hines is a really good player. I mean, he's a terrific pass catcher out of the backfield for them. So, Yeah, that's look. I like their team all around. I will say though, I think the Titans did weaken them and strengthen themselves with one guy. I mean, I'm not saying that swings it either, but Autry is a guy you like to have, and I feel like, especially in those two games, he's probably going to be pretty fired up based on
the comments he made. Yeah.
Now he's a good player. He makes a difference. And, you can't keep everybody, can't sign everybody if you're the Colts, although they are in a good cap situation. So that whole thing is good to me for the Titans. But it's Wentz. It's about Wentz. And I'm probably down the middle and a little bit on the optimistic side in terms of looking at him. I think he could still be very good. Health, obviously there was some stuff with him and the coaches in Philly, and that's a little bit troubling. But he's also reuniting with a coach he had a good relationship with, so you would think that would kind of mute some of those things.
He is. I think it's important for him to get off to a good start if this is going to work, because based on some of the things that I've seen, I'm not sure that Carson Wentz is the best at handling adversity. From what I've seen with the press conference and the way his tenure ended in Philadelphia, if you get off to a rough start and there's some noise around you in Indianapolis about turnovers, that was a big problem. He can't hold on the ball. He fumbles all the time in the backfield. If that happens early with Carson Wentz, how do you handle that moving forward? I've not been impressed with the way Carson Wentz has handled things from an adversity standpoint. And if things are rough early, I wonder if that could snowball on him with the Colts.
Hey, he's away from Philly media, though.
He is away from that, which certainly will help.
Let's not underestimate Philly media and how
true.
Nasty they can be.
It's true.
But really, I mean, there is some truth to that. But yeah, no, it's a good point. He's emotional, it appears.
Yeah.
Very emotional and a little bit hot-headed. Doesn't mean that can't work. Doesn't mean, if things go well, that's a fire and grit and determination. And when you fumble or throw a pick or you lose, then you're a crybaby. So I hear what you're saying, though. A good start is probably important to get that good feeling because, with Phillip Rivers, they still did get a really good year. It's actually amazing looking at his numbers from last year. It's like, golly, man. Guy threw for, what did he throw for, 4,300?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I mean, he was good. It's just that he
threw a couple of death picks, but it wasn't like a consistent theme.
No. I mean, like the Cleveland game was one of those where I'm like, and the Jacksonville game where you're like, I mean, if he doesn't throw, there you go. Yeah, that's right. The Pittsburgh game where again they looked like, that's great. That's the best team in the AFC South, and then Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
But again, I mean, overall, pretty good. Like it's interesting they aren't signing up for that again, right? Obviously, they didn't. They decided they didn't want to. You could be worse. You could certainly be worse off with Carson Wentz, but I think people like one of our sweaty non-ladder having friends who celebrated Wentz signing like it was the greatest day in NFL or in Titans history.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe you need to step back a little bit
and
step up on the ladder.
Very nice. I still worry about if you're the Colts, who are your big play threats offensively? Because T.Y. Hilton's a good player. He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 in November. I think it's pretty clear at this point he's lost a step. So, T.Y. Hilton, on a consistent basis, is not beating you down the field anymore.
Unless maybe you're the Titans.
Maybe you're the Titans. Michael Pittman, I think, is good. I think he's a really good player. Is he a number one in this league? I kind of have my doubts about that, too. So, I still, from their offensive standpoint, I don't know that they've got this game-breaking player at wide receiver that you're nervous about if you're a team around the league.
But also remember Paris Campbell, who was hurt and has the injury thing. I look at that guy as a guy who can be scary if he is healthy. And now I'm very intrigued. Now I need to see what our Stephen Holder did in the beat rate.
Yeah, who they're going to select?
Yes. I could try to do that really fast.
There have been some mock drafts that have had them taking Rousseau out of Miami. Them coming in there and coming right back on the line.
Yeah, going edge. That makes sense. I mean, obviously, Houston is moving on. There's another guy who is still out there, I believe, right?
He is.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But it also feels like they're probably going to get into this rich pool of receivers, right?
Could be.
Which
hope they draft the wrong one.
yeah,
What if your boy
thing.
Rondale Moore ends up in Indianapolis?
I mean,
that'd be tough news for Titans fans.
Hour away from Purdue, just drive down 65. Head to Indy. I tell you,
right.
someone's going to get this kid and is going to be very happy about it.
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Tennessee Titans and look ahead to maybe some moves that could still be on the table, including a visit yesterday from, I guess, will we call him a former Titan at this point? I guess technically he is until he signs somewhere. Visit to Cleveland yesterday. We'll discuss that next.
That's a good question.
Next with your boy coming up. Right now, I got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, and it's tourney time. The tourney is down to just 16 teams, so if you've been watching from the sidelines, now is your chance to get in on the action. FanDuel Sportsbook is hooking you up with exclusive 30-1 odds on all 16 teams left in the bracket, even the top seeds. That's right, new users, 30-1 odds on any team to win their next game this round. You can win $150 on a $5 bet, so maybe you feel great about favorites like Gonzaga or Alabama. Baylor's still in the mix as well. You can go that route. All you've got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and make your first deposit to unlock exclusive 30-1 odds. The app is so easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid in as little as 24 hours. Just make sure you sign up with promo code ROB so they know that I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only. Must wager in designated offer market. $10 first deposit required. Max bonus of $150. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For problem gambling support, call 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, and streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe Rexrode coming back into the room. Coffee has been had. He's ready to go, and now people can see his beautiful face. Streaming live on Periscope, YouTube, and on Twitch as well.
I try to do that stair thing where you pretend you what, but my knees aren't.
They're
not up to it, man.
You got about halfway down, and you're like, "Screw this."
Yeah. I played. I had to wear out a 13-year-old on the basketball court yesterday, so that's my excuse for my knees feeling a little bit wobbly.
How close is your 13-year-old to taking you down on the basketball court? Is there progress being made?
Technically, there's been maybe 1 or 2 wins in one-on-one, but it's, come on.
It's like the 16th seed beating the 1. It's not going to happen very often.
Yeah, but no, he's getting better. Got to work on that left hand, man. Got to work on that left hand.
Got to be versatile.
Yep.
That's part of the game.
Got to be able to make a left-handed layup at some point.
At some point, that's for sure. Got a lot coming this hour. Predators head coach John Hines joining us at 7:30. We'll get into the game tonight against the Detroit Red Wings with him. Right now, talking Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Now, Joe, you've been accused by some on our text line of having an affinity for Jadeveon Clowney. We all know how excited you were for Titans fans to get him in the fold last year, and he came in. We know what happened. It didn't work out with Jadeveon Clowney and the Titans, but now Jadeveon Clowney rumored to have visited the Cleveland Browns yesterday. Now, probably some regret on Clowney's front. They offered him, I believe, a multi-year deal last year, as our good friend Charles Robinson pointed out, worth, I think, up to $18 million, which, if you're Clowney, sounds pretty good right now. But
per year, by the way.
Per year. So, could have been in really good shape financially. But the report yesterday that Clowney visiting the Cleveland Browns, could it be another opportunity for Clowney to end up in Cleveland? And if you're a Titans fan, do you want to see him go? There have been some Titans fans that have floated the idea out there of, now that you've got Bud Dupree, you've got Harold Landry in the fold as well, maybe you keep Clowney as your number 3. What do you think of that?
I mean, I don't even. What's he taking? First of all, let's go back to the beginning. I was not excited when Clowney came.
I said
was not
excited for Titans fans, not you personally. We're doing jumping jacks. Said you're excited for Titans fans.
I liked the move. I did.
There you go.
I liked the move.
That's all I'm saying.
All right. I just, I was Clowney.
I kind of think you did do that.
Yeah. According to Heidi.
According to, 4-ladder Heidi.
And Jared.
Yeah.
4-ladder Heidi and
may
no
or may
ladder
not be
Stillman.
the same person, but yeah.
Jared does have a ladder now, right?
6-foot ladder.
On his way from Amazon.
Oh, okay. It's not there yet. Now, next, we have to teach him how to use it. So you put your foot there, and then your hands here, and then the next foot goes up.
I would love to see you teach him how to use the ladder. It'd be great.
What level of Little Lord Fauntleroy are we talking here, Jared? I hope he's listening.
I hope so, too.
Clowney, yeah. No, first of all, forget come on, he's gone. Like, the third person, I definitely advocate drafting a young player who has not had a series of serious injuries, who would, be inexpensive. I mean, what is Clowney? Clowney's number is going to go way down, okay?
Yes.
But how far down is it going to go? He's not going to take
not
$2
far
million
enough to be your number 3.
Exactly. If Clowney will take a $1 million guaranteed with incentives up to like 6, okay?
Do it.
Great. Yeah, he's not. That's not going to happen. The Browns, they're enamored with him. Go for it. I can't wait to see the number though. If you at this point, again, after another season-ending injury, because at some point the list gets too long and the age gets too high.
You're getting close to that point with him,
right? I mean, if anyone gives him more than, I don't know, $7-8 million, I think that's crazy. And yes, I am the person. I'll raise my hand always. I thought the whole thing last offseason was built around getting him, and I think it was, and they got him. And of those 3 moves that really didn't pan out, that's the one that I to me, I criticized the least, and Vic Beasley is the most, because Vic Beasley came with all this, all this information that you seem to ignore. Clowney, everybody knows it's kind of a risk. And look, I do think that Clowney, if he had a good run of health, could still help a team and be an effective player. But again, that if gets bigger and bigger as different, core and knee, and he's had knee before. It's a lot of stuff. He didn't have an Achilles, did he?
I don't think so.
No. I mean, he and Watt together, between them over those years, it just so many different things.
Well, maybe that's where he ends up. Maybe he ends up in Arizona. We had, a texter a few months ago talk about only way J.J. Watt's coming to Nashville is if they keep Clowney.
That's right. We did have that source watching J.J. Watt eat pulled pork.
The Houston barbecue joint.
Yeah. Maybe. Our guy Sheil Kapadia, friend of the show, has his best free agent fits and where players should go. He goes Dolphins with Clowney. So in this second wave free agency, he's picking fits. I've already told you this, so I'll throw it at Porth. Porth, what would you guess if someone was saying, okay, one person out there in this the second level of free agents the Titans should sign? Who would you guess?
What position would you guess?
That Sheil Kapadia said?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Tight end?
That's a good guess, but it's not tight end.
It's a receiver. Now, do you have a guess?
Well, a tight end technically does receive the ball.
Oh, well, that's true.
That's
This person does not play the tight end position. We'll put it that way.
receiver.
I can't
guess.
even think right now at the top of my head who the free agent receivers are.
Former Baltimore Raven.
I had not really
Willie
thought.
Snead?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Willie Snead.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, I hadn't thought about him.
Wouldn't hate that.
It's not terrible. He had 33 for 432 last year. Again, it's just
And you got to keep in mind the numbers in that offense. Probably a little pushed down as to what they're doing out there. It's not like Lamar Jackson's slinging the ball around the field 40 times a game either.
right. But I think with Snead, again, I think it's kind of like, I know Watkins is a higher level than him with probably a little bit bigger risk, bigger money. Snead would be not expensive. I suspect, though, that that they're not going to sign any more receivers. Now, I could be wrong, but I think it's imperative to draft one. But Reynolds certainly helps the depth. And then we know the future All-Pro that I have forecast for everybody.
Rondale Moore.
Well, no. Nick Westbrook.
Nick Westbrook-Akina, yes. Could have two All-Pros.
He is now Joe's
Yes,
Nick.
yes.
Joe's Hoosier, who is going to be an All-Pro next year and catch 100 passes for 1,500 yards.
Who's your daddy?
There you go. Thank you.
That was not good.
I did that headline in a college paper, sports editor, when Michigan State beat Indiana. That I wrote that headline.
Did you get fired?
Who's your daddy?
Okay.
No,
All right.
I don't know.
You
Not
wrote your
fired.
own headlines?
Well, I was a sports editor, so I put together.
the editor. Okay.
I put
Yeah,
together
yeah.
the page.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So a big "Who's your daddy?"
Nice.
And someone was like, "Doesn't really make sense." Like, yeah, well, whatever, man. It's a joke.
Just do it.
They beat the Hoosiers.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. JD text in, should the Titans take a flyer on Aldon Smith? Now, Aldon Smith had 5 sacks last year and played in all 16 games for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys informing him yesterday they are moving on from him, so he is out there and available. If you're the Titans, do you think a flyer on Aldon Smith could be in the cards? Now, he is 31, be 32 next season in September. How would you go about that if you're the Titans? Do you think he is worth taking a flyer on?
I guess. with a lot of these players, look, I'm if you can make it work with everything else, with the rookie pool that you have, and with the annual goal, and the annual, it's not just a goal, it's what they do, having space left over, when you're in camp,
Right.
then that's a position where more depth, more quality is good. Just a lot of these names that are being thrown out here who are being cut are people in their 30s who have had injuries, who are going the wrong way. It's just that's one thing I like about the Reynolds signing is that he actually could still be getting better. He's been durable. He's played every game basically, and he's young.
Right.
And a lot of these other names that are being thrown out here, it's hilarious for me to call someone in their early 30s old, but it's the NFL.
Yeah.
So
Are you calling me old?
If you were a professional athlete, I would say you're probably senior better. Although, technically, your athletic prime is 28 to 32.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm in my athletic prime.
I'm at the beginning of it.
So there you go. It's not
What about
over
you?
for you guys yet. Yeah. I remember being like 35, 36, like, yeah, I'm still pretty close
Still
to the
pretty
athletic
good,
prime. It's
man.
not that far away.
That's right. We'll continue the discussion on the Tennessee Titans when we come back. Taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. .1025 The Game is kicking off every weekend with free beer.
Free beer!
And who doesn't love free beer? Make sure you're tuning in all day on Friday for your chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. Ryan Porth already come up with an expert-level trivia question. We think.
I also
We'll find
have an expert level trivia question later this hour for your chance to win Preds Red Wings tickets tonight.
That is true.
Ooh.
We've got an opportunity for you to get in the building tonight to watch the Predators take on the Detroit Red Wings. John Hines coming up at 7:30 as well, Predators head coach. So looking forward to that conversation with him in about 12 minutes or so. We'll get that done. Right now, talking Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Let's go to the text line. Ron texts in and says, I think it doesn't matter what kind of receivers you have because a receiver is only as good as his quarterback and vice versa. I think when you're talking Colts, the Colts will be just mediocre. So a couple of different thoughts there from Ron. What do you think of his idea that it doesn't necessarily matter who the receivers are as long as the quarterback is really good?
Well, I disagree, Ron.
I disagree as well.
I think you need good receivers too. Now, granted,
Tannehill could just sling it around.
The mythical sea monster known as Tom Brady could target me
Scotty Miller.
now. Scotty Miller, there you go.
Yeah.
There are quarterbacks who make receivers better.
Sure.
But I think you need some – I mean, how much has the Titans' offense improved from adding A.J. Brown in the last 2 years?
Pretty
Tell
dramatically.
me that guy. And
now,
we would all agree that Derrick Henry
you know
is
who the quarterback's been the last 2 years with him too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it all works together,
It
but
does.
you can't tell me that A.J. Brown, just on his own, has not made a massive difference with what he does.
Yeah.
After the catch, going to get the ball. I mean, everything. He's becoming a really, really excellent receiver. So, it's not like, hey, Nick Westbrook-Akina, who I'm now going to be tied to forever. There's a guy who might, be some kind of a contributor for the Titans moving forward, and maybe a guy like Tannehill can make him look better. But you need some A.J. Browns on your roster.
Well, you do, and like Josh Reynolds, I think is a good signing. And if you can draft a receiver that can come in and contribute right away, then you feel a lot better about this room. Like if it's just Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball to A.J. Brown and that's it, if you didn't go out and get Josh Reynolds, you go with a receiving room of Cam Batson and Nick Westbrook-Akina, no disrespect. Probably not going to be a very prolific passing game this year. Sorry, had to get my shot in.
It's my guy.
It's your guy. People talked about Khalif Raymond being your guy last year. That didn't work out.
A lot of people give me crap for that.
They do. Do you think that maybe if this doesn't work out with Nick Westbrook-Akina, you could be like as the curse I am to Preds Pick to Click? We'll have another opportunity coming up at 8:45. Maybe you're that way with Titans wide receivers.
Well, maybe he just replaces Khalif Raymond.
Maybe so.
Because, yes, I definitely during camp last year was like, Khalif Raymond looking good, everybody.
Yeah.
Watch out. He had a couple good games. Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah. He had one actually definitely a good game.
He was good against Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's
I think
true.
He had like 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm glad he had one good game.
Yeah.
Didn't he end up somewhere the other day?
The Lions.
The Lions.
Oh, yes.
So I think maybe it's that franchise is changing for the better.
Yes.
Dan Campbell, Khalif Raymond.
A mighty team that will not yield.
Now with a speed threat. Jared Goff throwing the ball down the field to Khalif Raymond.
Kenny Galladay, good luck in New York. Westbrook-Akina. No, it's guaranteed that, again, if he has like 25, 30 catches next year, which is a lot, going from 3 to that. But to me, that would be a success. That would be someone who's like Tajay Sharp at the back of the room can come in and give you something. But even that, I'll take crap because someone will be like, well, you said he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. You said he's going to be number 2. So I'm bracing for it.
Let's go
At least I own a ladder.
Back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben texts in and says, so if Tannehill lays another playoff dud, are we going to say the downgraded weapons are the reason why? Ben all over Ryan Tannehill and his playoff performances.
So Ben is a Tannehater?
Oh, yes.
He's a verified Tannehater?
Verified Tannehater.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, look, Tannehill, you got to prove yourself year to year, game to game. What have you done for me lately? His last game was not good enough. Wouldn't argue that. I mean, I hope you've watched all the games. You should feel pretty good about who your quarterback is.
Ben
if you're a
argues
Titans
in the
fan.
playoffs, it's all been bad for Tannehill.
That's
because of the stats.
Right, the stats. Yeah. He didn't throw the He didn't throw those red zone touchdowns to Ferkshire and Jonnu Smith. He didn't throw the bomb to Raymond. He didn't throw the 2 conversions late in the New England game to keep. He did throw a bad pick at New England, though. That's something to remember. Wasn't perfect. Stats weren't great.
Stats weren't great. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Andrew from Dover text in, trade up in the draft and get Devontae Smith from Alabama. You have to trade up pretty high.
Yeah,
get Devontae Smith.
What are you trading? So you got 22. I mean, where's Devontae Smith going to go at this point? That's going to be really interesting to see how those, especially just like, I think everyone pretty much has Chase rated as the number 1 guy.
Right now, everybody's pretty much got rated Devontae Smith at number 2, which is
number 2 overall, or number 2 between him and Waddle?
Number 2 behind Chase, between him and Waddle.
Yeah,
I've seen Waddle at 3, basically all over the place as of late.
Yeah, like the right athletic writers one that we just did has Smith going 9 to the Dolphins, Waddle 7 to the Lions. Oh, the Lions!
Oh man,
a mighty team, and then Chase to the Eagles, a mighty team that will not yield. Thank you. 9. If you had to just get up to 9, so 13 spots.
Yeah.
First of all, let's before we even entertain this, because it's just like fun mock draft stuff. There's zero chance that they are, to me, investing other stuff to go get a receiver when they have these other needs. Like if they traded up, to me, I think it would be more likely they'd trade up to get like J.C. Horn. I don't know if anybody noticed, but Vrabel and Robinson were at his pro day yesterday.
Pretty good player.
To me, if there's a corner here that they are like, that is the guy, we need an elite corner, this is going to be a long-term starter, an elite guy for us, that would be, to me, where they would move up. Farley, now he's got the injury. Patrick Surtain, too, from Bama. But J.C. Horn lit it up at his pro day, certainly. He apparently, he tested off the charts and looked great. Both of them were there. So that is, if they're going to move up to do something like that, to me it would be that. It would not be to get one of those top receivers. Because it just, you
got to give up too much.
Too many, you have to give up too much and you have too many other needs.
Well, we've talked about going kind of the opposite way of moving up. If you're the Titans, maybe moving down and getting another pick in there to get to 5 in the top 100 rather than 4. Like, if you're moving up, you're sacrificing picks at that point. To me, with this roster being what it is and financially being where you are, I'm not even sure that's a route you could consider. Unless, I guess, Kyle Pitts drops to, 12 and you really love Kyle Pitts, go get him. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of scenarios where I can imagine the Titans moving up.
Yeah, if someone falls and that you just absolutely, Pitts. Or, again, one of these corners, if there's someone, they think J.C. Horn, for example, is just up here compared to the other guys and it's attainable and you have to sacrifice a pick, okay. Hey, get your guy. But, just as we stand right now, if it was me making a trade, I'd be going the other way and still getting a good corner and adding a pick and still getting at least one good receiver and a tight end and an edge and a tackle. And
exactly. All those other needs that are still on the table for the Titans. When we come back, we will switch gears and get into the Nashville Predators. They're at home once again tonight, taking on the Detroit Red Wings. Puck drop at 7 o'clock, pregame at 6 o'clock here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Predators head coach John Hines coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Poor taking you through this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Talking all things Nashville Predators. They're taking on the Detroit Red Wings tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock, pregame at 6 o'clock here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators head coach John Hines. John, what's going on, man? How we doing?
I'm doing great. Good morning to you guys.
John, we appreciate you taking time to join us. Obviously, your team playing really well as of late. Winners of 4 out of the last 5. An impressive performance the other night against Detroit. What do you like the most about the way that your group has responded as of late, both on the 8-game road trip and now coming back 1 game at home, taking on the Red Wings again tonight?
I'd say probably 3 things. I think, probably the first and foremost is I think the group's really come together as a team. And when you see guys, I think they're really playing for one another. I think you can look at things that have gone on the road trip, just the consistency level in the work that we've had. There's a clear identity to our team every time we've played, probably barring that second Florida game where, we didn't play as well, but I thought that was more of an execution thing with the puck, our puck play and puck decisions, than it was how hard we were working throughout the lineup. So I think the fact that we're playing really well as a team, we're playing very connected. Guys are playing hard for each other. You look on the road trip, we had a couple fights, and I think the team's response after those fights, as opposed to early in the year, it brought us energy, and there was very good reactions to that. I think that when you look at sometimes when guys have taken penalties, like Matty Olivier in the Florida game, he takes that 4-minute roughing penalty against Gudis, just the reaction of the guys on the bench and how hard they went out and tried to kill that penalty has been pretty impressive. I think that the guys really understand now, the group of players that have been playing, just how hard you have to work night in and night out on both sides of the puck, not only defensively but offensively. The intensity level that our forecheck pressure, when we lose possession, our forwards, they're not hanging below the puck or waiting for someone else to do the job. They're transitioning hard back to defense, which allows us to play a real strong, connected game, and that's been very, very consistent. And I'd say the third thing is I just really like the mentality of our team, that there's, we don't have any excuses, whether we've had injuries or a tough road trip or what it's been. Guys have, every player that was on the road trip played and contributed, no matter who was in or out of the lineup. We were the same group and the same mentality throughout every game. And I think that's a big thing, that it's about now we put ourselves in position where we can really compete for a playoff spot. And, we're in a situation, too, to the players' credit, that, we're not hoping for someone to lose or have to go on this big run, win 5, 6 games, 7 games in a row. We have to take care of our business on a daily basis.
On the first of those, John, is there a particular thing you can point to, a moment, a Newt Rockne speech from you, an individual on the ice, something that has help bring it all together?
I think one of the big things is we didn't have a great series against Florida prior to the road trip, and there were some things in our game, particularly what I said, particularly with our forward group. Just I think when you watch us play in the offensive zone, like we showed some shop and compare clips. We showed Tampa, we showed Florida. Watch their reload and their commitment level without the puck, their intensity level in the offensive zone of getting to the net or winning puck battles, and showed this and then shop and compared with our clips, and they weren't close to the level they needed to be. And we talked about coming on the road trip and saying that if we're going to give ourselves a chance to win, this is the style of game A we've been preaching, but B, we have to have this in our game if we're going to give ourselves a chance to win. And to the guys' credit, I think they understood what it needed to be, and it was executed, and I think that got legs. That now started, okay, yeah, this is hard to play against. It is a lot of hard work, but there's rewards at it, and I think it just kind of grew as the road trip went on.
Predators head coach John Hines on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And, John, I talked to you the other night after the game about Mattias Ekholm and just how important he's been for your team through this stretch. As you've looked at it from your vantage point with the young guys you've had in the lineup on the back end, having him elevate and play on the left side, he's shown the ability to play on the right side as well. Just what has Matthias Ekholm meant to this group specifically? And I guess from a leadership standpoint, what sort of strides have you seen him take over the last stretch here?
Yeah, I mean, he's played very well. Obviously, you can see what he's done on the ice. I think that we were talking about the other day as a staff, just with Roman out and Ryan out. He's really been, he's the most experienced guy and was thrust into the number one position of having top minutes in every situation. And I think he really thrived in that situation. And his play's been very good. He's always been someone I think you can all count on, even prior to my time here. He's plays the game hard. He's a big 6'4" defenseman. He can skate. He moves the puck. He defends well. You can use him in all situations. And, that's never really been a question with Matthias. I think his game has elevated since the injuries. And like I said the other night when we talked after the game, that he's a big reason why I think our team has really taken a step on the ice, just the way that he plays night in and night out. And the second part is I think he really did a good job as a growing leader with our team of you can have success on the ice too, but there's so much behind the scenes, your team chemistry, the buy-in, what's being said in between periods, the messages from the coaches to the players. I think he's really we've seen him take a step just in his demeanor around the locker room, being more vocal. And I'd like to just give you guys a heads up on that. I think sometimes when you look at leadership, we look at these guys and look at a guy like Ekholm and he's a big 6'4" guy. He's a well-spoken guy. And the way that he plays, you think there's a natural leadership component to him. And I think a lot of times you forget that these guys are great athletes, but sometimes they need to learn about leadership. And one of the things we've talked with our leadership group about, and particularly him, was we set goals for those guys coming into the year. And we had a leadership criteria. And one of them is, Matthias has always set the example of the way he plays, the way he goes about his business, what type of pro he is. But that's just setting the example. That's not leadership. Leadership is communicating and having a willingness to hold people accountable to those same standards that he has. And I think he was a guy that set the example of how you want to play and practice and how you want to be a pro. But the next step for our group and our leadership group was you've got to be willing to hold people accountable. And you can go to the movies with friends, but when friendship gets in the way of being a great teammate and a leader, that's the growth step that needs to happen for some of these guys. And that's what we've seen with Matthias, is being willing to hold people accountable and being more vocal and communicating what needs to be done. And I think that's where he's really taken a step, is being a leader versus setting an example.
Yeah, it was really interesting. We talked about this earlier, John, like from our perspective on Matthias, and a lot of times they don't match up. One of the best guys to talk to over the years, a guy who, good times, bad times, very outspoken, willing to be very frank about things. Again, doesn't always match up, but it was interesting to hear you talk about him using his voice more, behind the scenes. Is the youth of the team also part of that? I guess, is it easier or is it more urgent when you have so many young guys in the lineup now who need that kind of guidance?
I think with, the difference is, when you look at our team, when you have everybody in the lineup, you have a lot of guys that are all the same age. And lots of them have very similar experience, whether it's in the league or, they've come up together. Some guys have been in the same draft class. And when you have a group of people that are all around the same age, there is no natural pecking order where when you have some young guys in your lineup, a guy like Matthias has far more experience than guys in the league. And, I think that sometimes it's easier as a leader to be a little bit more vocal with young guys because there's just this natural level of respect, or sometimes there's not, as much pushback or things like that because they're young and they're influential. And I think when, that's the challenge of being a leader is to be able to do it with young players, but also, have that, which is why I think you need a leadership group sometimes, is to be able to have some backing, whether it's Roman says something and he's got to have his assistant captains, be with him and stand strong together when you have a group of players that are all around the same age. And sometimes that dynamic changes a bit when you have some younger guys in the lineup.
Predators head coach John Hines on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com And, John, it's been pretty incredible to watch UC Soros since he's come back from injury. He has the shutout performance the other night against Detroit, the 47-save performance, albeit in a loss against Florida as well, but he was outstanding in that game. What have you noticed from him since he's come back? What do you think has been the difference with him since he's come back in?
Well, sometimes, it's funny, guys could get away from a little bit when they get injured, and sometimes it's good for a reset. I even think when you look at Ekholm's play since he's come back from injury, he's been a little bit mentally refreshed and ready to go. But as far as Saros, when he's playing his best hockey, he's really, he's a smaller goalie, but he's very athletic. But the thing that makes him very good is he's very positionally, he's very sound. He anticipates and reads the game really well. And I think when you look at him now, he's reading plays through traffic. I think when you look at a lot of the East-West plays, or like that rebound save he made early in the game against Detroit, he sits back a little bit more in his net. He reads the play. He can anticipate, and his lateral movement, lots of times he's in good position. So he's one of these goalies. Sometimes he makes incredible saves, but sometimes they don't look that great because of his positioning and his anticipation to be in the right spots, and that's when he's playing his best hockey.
John, I know you were asked about Tim Peel after the game the other night. We don't need to revisit that specifically, but it has become the biggest story in hockey right now over the last 24 hours or so. So a general question for you on officiating, the state of officiating, without getting you fined here, but do you think that there is a problem in this league, and do you think that fundamental changes need to happen to make officiating better in this league?
I don't think one incident is something that really blankets the officiating in the league. I think that the guys do a very good job. One, it's a hard job. I know we can all there's probably not a lot of referees in any league anywhere that are usually well liked, because you're in a position where you're always, if you make calls or you do things, you're always in a situation where the team that's against it or the fan base that's against it you're never going to make everyone happy. And it is a tough job, but I think that we do have very good referees. I think that guys do a good job of communicating with coaches and players, and you don't get to this level as a referee if you don't really understand the game and the flow of the game and you're doing the right thing. So I don't think it's a major issue with the referees in the NHL. I think a lot of very, very, very quality people, and unfortunately one incident I think has kind of possibly blanketed a lot of those guys or refereeing in general, and I don't think that that's fair.
Predators head coach John Hines has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. John, appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, and good luck tonight against the Red Wings.
Great, thanks. Always enjoy talking with you guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
John Hines, Predators head coach here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Nashville Predators, revisit our poll question of the day, and get into some news yesterday as well that made the rounds from our show yesterday with Matt Duchene. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Make sure you're tuning in later this morning at 8:45 for your chance to participate in Pred's Pick to Click and win a prize pack brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Got that opportunity coming up for you at 8:45. And, Joe, we've already started receiving, sympathy text on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. For me, in this competition, it's become a sad place for me, Pred's Pick to Click. It's not good.
I think you just have to embrace it.
I kind of have to at this point. Otherwise, it's just sorrow every time.
You honestly, what you almost might need to do, you might need to be like George Costanza.
Yeah.
Can I trust you guys to get this reference?
Yes, Seinfeld.
Okay, good. I think Porth is kind of like, whatever your instinct is, this is a George Costanza moment. Do the opposite.
Yep.
So actually what you should be doing is you should be picking just complete random people who have no chance of scoring. And they will score.
Yeah.
And the first time it happens, I'm telling you, if Seinfeld is real life, which I base half my life on it, I think this could work out for you.
Hey, maybe worth a shot at this point. We'll see.
I think you should just go way off the grid today.
If I give it a try at 8:45, it may happen. We'll have to see how that goes.
If he goes off the grid, it's going to be Forsberg and Tolvanen scoring the goals tonight.
Forsberg's going to have a hat trick. So we'll
maybe.
see how that goes.
But has he really done it, though? I mean, basically, he's just been with,
I've
Tolvanen,
been like
Forsberg, Granlund.
Tolvanen, Granlund, Johansson, Arvidsson,
right.
Duchesne when he's been healthy.
Basically, is it not worth a shot at this point? I'd say it is.
Could be. We'll see if that's the route I decide to go.
Go with Carrier tonight.
Maybe so. Coming up at 8:45, you'll find out. Ryan Porth, we've got some tickets to give away.
Yes, we do.
For the Nashville Predators taking on the Red Wings tonight at Bridgestone Arena. And we've consulted you once again and your wonderful trivia questions that you always put together. If you get this question right, be the first person to text in to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to watch the Predators take on the Red Wings tonight. Ryan Porth, the trivia question for today.
I think one of you will easily get this, and I think the other will be stumped.
Okay.
So, Preds Red Wings tonight. Obviously, these two clubs have a lot of history, including in the playoffs, including the first ever playoff series for the Nashville Predators against the Detroit Red Wings back in 2004. Who scored the first playoff goal in team history for the Nashville Predators in 2004?
I know this.
So the first goal in that series,
yes.
First
playoff goal in Nashville Predators history.
So if you know the answer to that question, hit up our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to watch the Predators take on the Detroit Red Wings tonight at Bridgestone Arena.
Sorry, I just know it wasn't Lidstrom's fault. This is what I know, okay?
Okay.
Nick Lidstrom did not mess up. He never made a mistake in his entire career.
The perfect human.
That's right.
That's what they called it.
We should go back and watch the goal and see if Nick Lidstrom was on the ice. Because it was the first shift of the game.
So he probably was.
Yeah.
Still wasn't his fault.
Thought maybe an upset was coming in that series.
Yeah,
that game turned.
Yeah.
That game turned. So,
it took a while.
Yeah, it took a while. But, hey, got to do what you got to do sometimes. Joe, we made some news yesterday here on the program. Matt Duchesne, when his weekly visit with us, brought to you by Gary Ashton, Remax Advantage, and by Two Rivers Ford, talked about the Tim Peel situation that happened literally 6 minutes before he came on air yesterday. The NHL coming out with the announcement that they were moving on from Tim Peel. He would not be officiating any games now or in the future. And Matt Duchesne provided some insight onto what exactly went down in that game, what that audio clip from Tim Peel was referencing, and just kind of gave his thoughts on refereeing and officiating in the NHL. Here's what Predators forward Matt Duchesne had to say yesterday here on the show.
I mean, he's a veteran ref. He's, it was his last year anyway, so I think, that's maybe why they let him go rather than maybe suspending him or fining him. But, I mean, the crazy part is he was talking to Phil Forsberg in that clip. And he told our bench that. So, I mean, really bizarre. And I just think that can't happen. I mean, you got to, imagine the scenario where they score on that power play, we lose the game, and we miss the playoffs by a point. I mean, imagine that scenario, that could happen, right? Like, that could happen based on, like, that is not out of the realm of possibility, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, I don't think there's a place in hockey for that. You got to call the game. I've always been frustrated when I see even up calls or stuff like that. Like, if one team is earning power plays, you can't punish them because the other team is not. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that call was not a good call on RV. I mean, during the game, we're watching and we're like, what the heck was that? I mean, like, that wasn't even close to a penalty. And so, I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, I hope that's not something that goes on with more officials, but I mean, there's definitely nights where you're skeptical of it for sure.
So some honest comments there from Predators centerman Matt Duchene. And, Joe, that made the rounds yesterday. It was on TSN and Sportsnet, on the NHL Network, all over the place, the hockey world reacting to Duchene here on our show. I thought some really honest comments from Matt Duchene there about what takes place on the ice, his view on makeup calls. And we talked about it yesterday, like even up calls or makeup calls, whatever you want to call it. They've always been a part of not only the NHL, but I think really sports in general. And, some former players talking yesterday about, the game management, quote unquote, from officials in the NHL, how at times that can be a problem. This has started to generate a lot of discussion around the NHL as to what officials' job is out there, how they should go about officiating these games in the league, and maybe out of this incident with Tim Peel, how this could change the game and how this could change officiating as things move forward here in the National Hockey League. I'm going to be very fascinated, number one, to see where this story goes as more information continues to be reported on and talked about with Tim Peel, but also how this may affect officiating moving forward as well.
First of all, I'm disappointed that our previous discussion with Duchene about Canadian words and how they're pronounced did not go viral. I thought that one should have been all over the place. Yeah, people ran with this, and it was one of those timing things. Like you said, the news broke, and we got Matt Duchene on next segment. Worked out pretty well, and Duchene is a guy who will speak honestly about things, which is great. And it was interesting hearing him say, I hope this doesn't go on, but I'm skeptical some nights. Because there's a wide range on that since this has happened of, I think I've heard more people who are kind of in my camp, which is, of course this goes on. Does it make it okay? No. But there are discussions, and there's two different things. I think the makeup call part of it is worse than the get a game under control part of it.
Agreed.
Both of them, though, I think are part of the big picture that officials have in mind, and they're not just, that's a penalty, that is not a penalty. They are not. In some ways, it would be great. Like, I'm all for robots in tennis on the line, Tell
me whether it's in or out.
Yeah, like, I want that to be exactly right. Like, baseball, I've heard some people say we should have the one strike zone, and I don't agree with that. I think part of baseball is the umpire setting a strike zone, and at times calling something totally out of the strike zone. It's human error. And then the manager comes out and kicks dirt on them, and, that's part of the game. Like, I think humans should be part of this, and humans officiating basketball, football, hockey, whatever sport you want, they're going to at times do things that are not just straight up, is that a penalty, is that a foul, or is it not? The big picture's in mind. But the makeup call aspect of it is so dumb because some teams dominate other teams, and they should get 8 penalties called against the other team, and maybe they don't commit any. I mean, realistically, did they not commit any? Okay,
rarely.
That's probably not. But the huge disparities are fine. I mean, that sometimes that's just a domination. That's just a stat that reflects domination. And officials who look at it like that has to be closer to even, that's a problem.
I think it is. And I think that's been the case in the NHL at times where you've got, heading into the third period, one team's had 5 power plays and the other one's had 1.
Yeah, so what?
I think some officials have viewed that as we're influencing this game too much by putting this team on the power play too much. Let's even this thing up. And to me, you're influencing the game even more if you start doing that crap. I've always had a problem with that aspect of it. So, I don't know if this is going to be like some groundbreaking moment for the NHL and officiating as we know it changing moving forward. I agree with you. Like, I think there has to be a human element to this. I don't want to watch a special teams fest where people are just calling every penalty by the book all the time, because I'm here to tell you, if that happens, you're going to see a lot of power plays in some games from both teams. And I don't want the 5-on-5 aspect of hockey to just get completely removed. I think that would be awful for the game. So I do think there is a balance that needs to happen here. But this idea that you've just got to go about having makeup calls all the time, I don't agree with.
By the way, and I meant to look this up last night, and I didn't, but what was the penalty situation when he made that call? Because we never heard the rest of the discussion. We never heard the rest of the –
Yeah, I have to go back and look.
Was it definitely an evening up things, or was it a controlling the Preds thing? I think most people look at it like it was just a makeup call.
Yeah, I mean –
But is that necessarily the case?
I mean, I don't know. It was a very minor cross-check that Victor Arvidsson delivered.
Oh, no.
So if you're trying to keep him under control, I'm like, what are you keeping him under control from? It's not like there's been some rabid fight going on between the Red Wings and the Predators as of late.
Right. I mean, other than just thinking the Preds are being too physical.
I don't know, maybe.
So it was a makeup call. So you think it was a makeup call?
Yeah.
So we don't know. Porth, you don't know. I know we can figure this out. I meant to do this last night.
We could do this during the break.
What was the penalty situation when he made that call? Was it a huge disparity? Did the Preds?
I mean, it was early in the game, so it couldn't have been that much of a disparity. I don't know.
So then, I mean, I don't even. So then, if it wasn't, and it wasn't controlling them, what's your reasoning for wanting to do it?
That's a great question. And Duchesne talking about he was talking to the Predators bench in that situation too. That generated a lot of reaction yesterday on social media. Like, why was Tim Peel talking to the Predators bench? Why was he talking to Philip Forsberg during this? Just very strange situation with Tim Peel and the NHL officials.
The Preds only had one power play in the first period.
Yeah.
And then this was early in the second period. So it was one penalty to the Red Wings and 0 to the Predators before that point.
I guess I'd have to go back and look at the penalty they called on the Red Wings and just see what it was.
No, that was legit. That was the Adam Ernie interference on Victor Arvidsson, where it was like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where he completely drilled Arvidsson without the puck.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's I guess just to give them one because they had none. Is that it?
I guess so.
Got to give them one. Got to give them one. Just get one out of the way.
Maybe he thought Arvidsson took a dive. I don't know. That's the only thing I can come up with. Couldn't tell you. We'll continue this conversation when we come back. We'll be joined by Craig Custance from The Athletic. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesale Inc. studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing the Tim Peel incident and all things NHL. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Craig Custance from The Athletic. Craig, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking time to join us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
So, Craig, obviously we're in the thick of it here in Nashville with the Preds and Red Wings game the other night. Tim Peel gets caught on the hot mic in the NHL taking action about 12 hours later. And Matt Duchene on our show yesterday made some comments that found their way around the NHL world in reaction to that. As you've watched this entire situation unfold over the last couple of days, what's been your reaction to it, and what do you think happens from here from a league standpoint when it comes to their officials?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that, and my initial reaction when I heard the clip was like not surprised, and I think that's part of the issue, right? Like we all sit and watch these games, and it's like, oh, you know what? At some point, this is going to get evened up, and it's just become such a expectation in the NHL, and the outcry that followed was a reminder that, oh yeah, that's not a good thing that we sit here and expect makeup calls and perhaps calls that are actual penalties to be called and to balance things. And so, I was a bit surprised by the NHL, how big the hammer was, although when you take a step back and realize, okay, they didn't necessarily fire him. It's just he's not going to be doing games in the final month, and he was, this was it for Tim Peel anyways. It's a little bit, less of an impact there. And to me, the most important question is your second one is what happens next. And my sense is, probably not a whole lot. And maybe this becomes a talking point, and we can all talk about the officiating and the big issues and the lack of transparency and how the last minute of a game is called completely different than, various other points in the game, how the playoffs are called completely different, and how NHL GMs basically have to prepare 2 rosters, one for the regular season and one for the playoffs for success. I mean, it's all problematic, but I don't know. My sense and my feel with the history of the NHL is stuff like this takes a long time to get changed, and I wouldn't say I'm optimistic this is going to lead to meaningful change on that front.
So, Craig, some of the things you just mentioned, you can find parallels in other leagues, but do you think that the NHL has a bigger problem than the other major leagues in this country?
Oh, I do, yeah. And I think maybe where it might come to a head, in the difference right now in this moment in time, I would say is twofold. One is the gambling side of it, right? If more and more eyeballs are on the NHL, like it's grown. You give Gary Bettman a lot of credit. Like, he has grown. It's not a garage league anymore. It has grown completely into this billion-dollar industry. But at the same time, now with more eyeballs on NHL through legalized gambling in the sports space, I think that might there might be some changes made because of that. And the other thing is, and I don't know if this is going to make a big difference in the United States, but ESPN getting involved. This is a large platform, a huge TV deal that kicks in next year. So perhaps they're going to say, look, we want the same transparency that you see in the NBA. We want these officials to be held accountable. We want to see how they're assessed afterwards. I think there's way more transparency in the NBA if you're comparing the 2 leagues together, and I think it's past time for the NHL to get to that level.
Well, and the NBA obviously had the Tim Donaghy situation, which way before the gambling became what it is now as a mainstream thing, right? So I don't know I don't know how much you tie it to that, but I think that's a great point. I mean, and even what about it feels like there was more even just public accountability in terms of media having access in years past than there is now. Am I accurate with that?
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't. Like the hoops you have to jump through to try to get a rep on the phone, or and look, and I think that's a bad thing for them as well, right? Like, these are, when you sit and talk to these guys, it's one thing for fans to sit there and throw grenades at these refs because they don't know them. They've never really heard them talk. Look at a guy like Kerry Frazier, who has been so vocal and out front post-retirement. Like, this was somebody who was, in some fans, target number 1. And now he is a guy that people like to listen to. They like his assessment of games, and they appreciate what he brings to the table. I think having that transparency, trusting these guys to sit there and explain their call. I mean, Tim Peel, I imagine if people sat down and had a beer with Tim Peel, they'd really like him. And giving him that opportunity to talk and explain, I think the league is missing that opportunity with the way they've kind of closed ranks there.
Craig Custance from The Athletic on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hey, Craig, now on the ice with the Predators, the conversation is, what is David Poile going to do over the next little bit here? They've played better as of late, only 4 points out of the final playoff spot in the Central Division at the moment. And the chatter around here for the last few weeks and months has been, what does the future look like for Matthias Ekholm? Elliot Friedman coming out with a report the other day talking about maybe Ryan Ellis could be an option the Predators consider as well. I know you guys at The Athletic have been very high on Matthias Ekholm and the package that he could get back for the Nashville Predators. If you're David Poile, how do you handle this as you move forward with kind of creeping your way back into the playoff race, but it's been a disappointing season for the most part for the Predators up until this point?
Yeah, I mean, I know they're playing better and they're creeping back into it, but I don't think that changes the bigger picture in Nashville, right? Like, you don't sit there and look at this roster and say, okay, this is going to be one that's going to win a Stanley Cup. And so I think all moves have to be made with the bigger thought in mind, and that includes perhaps moving Ekholm. I think the idea of a Ryan Ellis trade is interesting, but I tell you guys, when I talk to GMs and execs around the league, money is so hard to come by. And as much as you might like Ryan Ellis, and even like the fact that he signed for the foreseeable future at a decent number, a guy like Matthias Ekholm is much easier to acquire because it's a lower cap hit, lower term. I can tell you, owners just are not looking to take on money. And so I think when you look at the Nashville Predators, what makes Ekholm so appealing is that this is a guy that can play on your top pair, legit, respected defenseman, also at a very reasonable number. And he's not a rental, so he really hits that sweet spot. So if you're talking about maximizing your return, I still think that's the easier move for the Predators.
We've been using the term soft sell a lot in the last day or so, Craig, with the idea, well, trade your expiring contracts. You can get something pretty good for Granlund at this point, but maybe Ekholm is such a key guy, still young, emerging leader, emerging standout player. I mean, he's been very good for a long time. What do you think about that? Like the half move, so to speak. Obviously, not buying, not standing pat either, but hoping that you can retool enough with something like that.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I just think, and I do think that the fact that the team's playing better, David Poile now has a little bit more leverage here, right? Like, there was a point in time where the Predators were basically the only team anyone was talking about on the trade front, the Predators and the Ducks. And now he can go to these GMs that are maybe trying to play hardball on Ekholm or whoever and just say, look, we're actually content here. We're going to do exactly what you say here, and we're going to maybe move some of our rentals, but we don't have to move Ekholm, and I'm sure that's the message right now. But if we're talking about, historically, if you're talking about making a major trade, and I would say somebody, a defenseman like that qualifies, this is probably his peak value unless you're convinced you can extend him. So the teams that are acquiring him right now are getting 2 playoff runs out of him. If you wait to make that move until the summer and you now have the expansion draft and you have teams trying to figure out who they're going to protect, I think it complicates things. And maybe there's not as many buyers right now because teams are so tight. It's hard to trade. It's hard to trade with the Canadian teams because of the quarantine and all the things that go with it. So there's a lot of complications, and that's why you haven't seen a lot of deals yet. But I still think I like the idea of the soft sell. But really, if you're trying to maximize assets, you have to look harder than that Ekholm deal, in my opinion.
Earlier, Craig, you talked about eyeballs in the NHL and the growth. How big of a deal do you think this TV deal is? And is Gary Thorne coming back, for crying out loud? I think you had the piece right away that he's coming back. It's got to happen, right?
I mean, it's funny. I don't know if Gary Thorne's coming back or not. It was funny how immediately those were the two things. They're like, oh, the song, the theme, the NHL on ESPN theme, and Gary Thorne. Everybody is so nostalgic for the '90s. It's for whatever reason. Maybe it's just my generation or me, Joe. But I think in terms of impact in the States, this is a long time coming for the NHL. I understand why they did what they did with NBC, but the idea of having all your eggs in one basket, having just one network supporting your product in NBC isn't great for the growth of the game in the United States. I can tell you, as somebody who worked at ESPN, when they have the rights to something, it is a game changer. And the example I'll use is when I was there, hockey, as we all know, was an afterthought on the television side. But we did have the World Cup of Hockey rights in whatever year that was, 2000. I've already forgotten, 16, 17. That World Cup of Hockey with Team North America and all that. And I can tell you, ESPN went all in. That was their product now. And so they were sending us to training camps in Sweden and Finland. I was in Quebec for a month. It was crazy. And it was because that was an ESPN product, and they were promoting it, and they wanted people to be interested in the games. And that's the TV that's on at the bars and the restaurants. It's not NBC Sports. So I've long contended this is the best thing, for the NHL. And I think people are going to see a complete difference there at ESPN.
Craig Custance from The Athletic has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Craig, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us and for tolerating Joe Rexrode.
Anytime, guys.
Hey, hold on. Don't leave, Craig. I want to say to everybody, in the world of college newspaper dorks playing football against other college newspaper dorks, Craig Custance is a much better player than Charles Robinson. I just want to put it out there.
Shots fired.
Wow.
Yes.
That means a lot.
Hey.
That means a lot. That was probably my peak athletic moment was catching a first down from Joe Rexrode in the State News Michigan Daily game. So
God bless you.
With a cigarette dangling from my mouth.
That's right. Way to go. Thanks, Craig. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Take care, guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. Craig Custance, one of the best in the business, and I guess protege. Is that a fair term? Protege of Joe Rexrode.
Nah, I don't think that's fair. Craig's unbelievable. He's been awesome. I was his sports editor
there you go.
for a brief time, and then off he went.
There he went.
Yes.
Any correlation?
What, like it was me? Maybe it was me. Maybe okay. I actually should.
Just throwing it out there.
Maybe you should take credit for his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, I threw him the ball, and I edited his stories, so maybe I should get a cut.
Maybe so.
Maybe I should get a cut, Craig.
We'll talk about that next time he's on the show. We'll react to a little bit of what Craig had to say when we come back. And right now, I got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, because there's always that one team this time of year that ruins your bracket, and let's face it, that's already happened for all of us. That's why this year I'm betting the tournament on FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, because on FanDuel, your first bet is risk-free, and it doesn't matter if you're betting on a team like Gonzaga or a team like Loyola Chicago. New users get up to $1,000 in site credit back if your first bet doesn't win. So FanDuel's got odds on all the action. With games day and night, your next chance to win with FanDuel is only minutes away. And with their easy app to use, there's no excuse for you to not get in on the action. I'm leaning towards Gonzaga. That's been my pick all along, but you take it any way you want to go. Guess what? FanDuel also wants to make you a millionaire. Yes, you. They're giving away $1 million to one lucky bettor, and new and existing users get an additional shot at the payout every day you bet on the tourney. So if you want a shot at becoming a millionaire or even a thousandaire, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Just use promo code ROB so they know that I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. No purchase necessary. Restrictions apply for $1 million drawing. For first online, real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires 14 days after receipt. Terms apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. For problem gambling support, call 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porter with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe Rexrode has acquired some stevia for his coffee. Let's see if he can get through the show today without getting anything in his eye. That was not accomplished yesterday.
Yeah, so far so good on that front. Stevia, by the way, anybody watch the show Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
You know, Walter White poisoned the stevia.
Yeah. Hopefully that's not happened to you at this point.
I don't know why I even brought that up. But
I don't know why either.
yeah,
but
kind of freaky.
Spoiler alert, by the way. So hope nobody's watching Breaking Bad out there.
That won't ruin the whole show.
No, it will not.
There is a character who dies of poisoned stevia.
There you go.
That's not. That's you
It's
should
not
still watch
groundbreaking.
the show if you haven't watched it.
Ryan Porth, let's update our trivia question today. We had a ticket to give away, pair of tickets to give away for the Predators taking on the Detroit Red Wings tonight at Bridgestone Arena. And the question was, thinking back to that 0-4 series between the Predators and the Red Wings, who scored the first playoff goal in team history for the Nashville Predators? Do we have a winner?
We do have a winner. His name is Sean.
Okay.
Sean from College Grove, Tennessee.
Now,
he's going to the game tonight.
Sean is the winner going to the game tonight. Joe Rexrode,
It's right down my area. Right down by my area, Sean. There
do
you go.
you have a guess on the goal scorer for the Nashville Predators in their opening round series against Detroit back in 2004? Can you name one player on the team from 2004?
Gosh, I mean, I certainly watched like that entire series. But I don't have a great guess on this one. I mean, who was their first round pick?
David Legwand?
Yeah, Legwand is a guy that. Okay, they had. Yeah,
I'm sure we got a couple guesses.
They
for that.
obviously
did.
Yeah.
I'll guess Hartnell. He was on that team,
Okay.
right?
Hartnell was on that team.
He did not score. He scored in the playoff series, but he did not score that goal.
Okay.
Steve Sullivan was on that team.
Yeah,
he
he
did not
was.
score the goal.
Sullivan
Kimo
is
Timonen
also
on that team?
Yes.
Yep.
The correct answer is Adam Hall.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
16 seconds in, by the way.
16, okay.
Yeah.
I sold him short by saying 20.
Yeah, come on. 16 seconds into the game, Adam Hall. Getting one in there.
Thought the Preds were going to win the cup after that goal.
Yeah. First goal in playoff history for the Nashville Predators.
I mean, that is
so
pretty.
congratulations, Sean.
That is pretty awesome to score that quickly into your first game in playoff history.
It's hard to beat.
I mean, maybe
That may be a record.
Yeah, maybe it sets the expectations a little high
Yeah.
for that first time.
Predators
but still,
fans like, this is what playoff hockey is?
But you can always
Awesome.
talk. Right. But you can always talk about it, and it becomes a trivia question 17 years later. That's kind of
right.
cool, right?
It is cool.
If it was like 8 minutes into the game, maybe we wouldn't be talking about it.
Maybe not. But now
It would
16
still be a trivia question.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be as cool of a trivia question.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
16 seconds
fair.
in.
Martin Erad is another one that
Yeah, I guess he was on that
you
team
could
too.
have thrown out there.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was indeed on that team.
Yeah. The gift that keeps on giving for the Nashville Predators.
That is for sure.
Let's revisit our poll question of the day at 1025 The Game on Twitter. Thanks to Craig Custance for joining us in the last segment. And part of what we talked to Craig about was what the Predators should do at the trade deadline, how he would approach it if he was David Poile. And today's poll question revolves around that at 1025 The Game on Twitter. What would you like to see the Preds do at the trade deadline? The options are a hard sell, a soft sell, standing pat, or buy. 299 votes are in. 41% say they would like to see a soft sell. 40% say they would like to see a hard sell. 11% say stand pat. And 8% would like to see the Predators buy.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe that the people voting buy are Predators fans. I don't believe you. If you're a Predators fan who voted buy, then call or text us and reveal yourself. I don't believe you at all.
Yeah, hit us up on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
You are a Chicago or St. Louis or Detroit fan
There's
who is
sabotage.
you're trolling the poll. It's a poll troll.
A poll troll. I like that. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris in Nashville text in, who was a better athlete in their youth, Willie Donick or Joe Rexrode?
Oh, God. Willie Donick played
Minor
college,
league baseball.
Division I
college basketball
Division
player.
I college basketball.
He also just separated his shoulder
Playing
playing
pickleball, so there is that. But that's not his
Pickleball?
youth.
Hey, I mean, the fountain of youth is still flowing for Willie Donick.
Look, I'm not saying that Willie's old. I'm just saying he's not 17 anymore running around out there. Got to be careful diving in pickleball game.
I will say that I would take me. Okay, so Willie is a little older than me, I think. But in the summer of '93, which was my athletic peak,
yes,
I would match myself up against Willie on the basketball court. I might be able to hang on the basketball court only. I was dunking comfortably, and I had my game together.
You're talking about an SEC basketball player here.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean,
I'm just asking questions. I'm making sure you know
I'm
stakes.
just saying, like, I might have been able to score a few buckets.
Okay.
On him. I think he'd still be a clear favorite in Vegas. Okay.
Sure.
Now, who knows at this point in our lives?
Right now, can Willie shoot right now with his shoulder?
Willie is much. I mean,
running jumper.
Yeah, like Willie could strike me out, no problem.
Yeah.
He's also way less fat than I am. But I mean, who knows? I've been able to use my weight on the court
to your advantage,
almost like it's strength.
Yeah.
If you know how to shift your weight around with your old man game, you actually can uproot people, and it's an asset for you.
It is. So maybe that's something you could do.
But I don't want to take on Willie. I want to throw Jared's shot into the third row.
Yeah, step by step here, Chris. We've got to be patient here. It's Jared first, and then maybe we'll get to Willie at some point.
So if you want to say who was a better athlete in their youth, Jared or me?
Yeah,
I feel much better about that question being asked.
Let's ask that question.
It's not even worth asking. Come on.
You never look. Jared played all sorts of stuff: basketball, baseball. He played high school baseball. You never saw him play.
Okay,
maybe he was great.
Maybe he was. I could be wrong.
I would love to see it.
I'm gonna tell you, like, this is all. It's like Chase and Darren running. And this is all trending toward a Battle of the Network Stars
athletic competition
field day. Yes,
for sure. We'll see if we can get that done. When we come back, we will get back into the Tennessee Titans. John Glennon from Broadway Sports will join us. We'll also get into the Isaiah Wilson situation that Glennon did a great job of reporting on yesterday for Broadway Sports. That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well, talking all things Tennessee Titans. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend John Glennon from Broadway Sports. John, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we appreciate you taking time to join us. And, John, let's start with, first off, a really good job by you on some reporting done, coming out with a story yesterday at Broadway Sports about Isaiah Wilson being arrested at gunpoint and charged with multiple offenses following a high-speed car chase in Georgia. We talked about that a little bit yesterday on the show as well. What did you learn in this report that you come out with, and what's been the reaction that you've seen since your reporting yesterday?
Well, I think certainly the reaction is probably the same one that I have, and it's just shock and continued bewilderment that, this guy never seems to reach the turnaround point. And by that, I mean, he has seemingly had so many opportunities, starting from, whether it was the DUI in Nashville, whether it was being suspended by the Titans, even before that, the Tennessee State incident. There have been so many instances where you could say, okay, maybe this is an opportunity for him to turn around, to kind of set himself straight, to clean up the act again, and we just don't see that happening. And this is certainly the greatest example. This is clearly he was still part of the team at that point, even though he was on the suspended list. And 3 days before his teammates are playing a playoff game, he's driving 140 miles an hour in the back roads of Georgia, and drugs are found in the car as well. And you just wonder where this is going to go and how he is going to be able to turn around, what it will take to hit rock bottom, if you will, and find a way to make things better.
Yeah, and you just hit on the detail, John, from the story that, I mean, to me, like if the Dolphins, for example, knew about this, they probably, don't make the trade for him. I'm just speculating, but that would be my guess, especially because of, the presence of not just marijuana, but LSD, per the police report, per your report. So my question for you on Isaiah is, there are bigger questions about him, like you said. I mean, it's a human life that needs to turn around, but in terms of a path back to this league, if he can figure it out and accept help, however you want to phrase it, I mean, what do you think that would look like for him at this point?
Boy, I don't know. I think it would clearly, and we're seeing all this at a distance. Obviously, we don't know the ins and outs, but, just from what we can see, it would clearly appear that there are some substance abuse issues, that there are some mental health issues, and I think it would take a very public commitment, from Isaiah Wilson and who his group is, whether it's his agents or whoever, to say, okay, Isaiah Wilson is doing this to recover. He's doing this to get better. He's going away for 2 months. He's cleaning up. He's getting things straight, and I think that would have to be well publicized. Because I do think, even in this extreme situation, this guy is still a first-round draft pick with, huge athletic football potential. And if he's publicly willing to kind of address issues and go through some type of treatment and rehab, I still think there are teams that are willing to take a chance on that at some point. But at this particular point, no one is going to do that without any kind of guarantee that he has at least tried to make his life better, because he's radioactive right now. There's no reason for a team to take a chance, when he brings so many more headaches to the table than he does, upside.
John Glennon from Broadway Sports on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, John, what do you think of the moves the Titans have made thus far this offseason in free agency? Bud Dupree, Danico Autry coming in. You've lost Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, Adoree Jackson, Malcolm Butler. Where do you view how the Titans stand right now, and what do you think of the moves that have been made so far?
I think overall I like them for the most part. I think they're a little bit better than what they started with. I think it's clear that in order to help the defense, they were going to have to make some sacrifices. And those sacrifices were perhaps a bit more than we thought. But I do like what we're seeing now in terms of, Janoris Jenkins, I think is, going to be a nice addition to the starting cornerback role. I think obviously Bud Dupree gives you a great track record on the edge. There's no red flags like there were a year ago when they brought in Vic Beasley. And Danico Autry, I think, is going to be very strong against the run and the pass. So I think you've made some good upgrades defensively. To me, the question is, are you as good a team offensively now, or can you get to being as good a team offensively as you were? And I don't think they are now, certainly. I think Josh Reynolds is probably a number 3 wide receiver, so I think they certainly need to add a number 2, and they're going to have to figure out how they're going to replace Jonnu Smith. Is it a matter of we give Anthony Firkser more receiving opportunities, or do they have to find another guy who can be kind of a more versatile tight end and more of a block and pass-catching threat?
So I hear you on Jenkins. I mean, I think he's still good. I think he's going the wrong way. He's up there, but he's still. I mean, he's a guy you can feel fine about him starting for you. But right now, I mean, talk about a ton on Christian Fulton, and if you're a Titans fan, you hope not as much on Kevin Johnson as the current situation dictates. Yeah. I don't think you want him starting as a cornerback for your team. So first of all, what do you think about Fulton's ability to step up based on just what we saw from him last year? And do you think corner might be the first place the Titans go in the draft?
I think either corner or wide receiver is the first place they go in the draft. I still think you have to have a number 2 wide receiver, and whether you get a slot guy with some great vertical speed or an outside guy, I think you can go there too. But corner's a legit option too. I think. I mean, they clearly liked Christian Fulton. They drafted him in the 2nd round, and to me, you almost kind of write off last year. It was incomplete off season. He played very little during the season, so you're almost going back in some respects to your original thoughts on Christian Fulton, and I think the thought was this guy can be a starting cornerback in the league. So he hasn't proven that yet, certainly, but I think the Titans believe that's the case. But yeah, I agree with you. If Kevin Johnson is your number 3 guy right now, I think you're probably not in great shape based on his track record. I do like the fact that he has had a little slot experience last year and maybe could help them out there. But yeah, I think that's an area that they're going to be very needy at, especially with the youth. I mean, you've got Christian Fulton, you've got Chris Jackson, who'll probably play a little bit of a role as well. So it's going to be a young core, I think, going forward, and that's another reason I think Janoris Jenkins is a nice move. He's almost like, to me, he's like a less expensive version of Malcolm Butler. Kind of that feisty man-to-man guy. Gives a little bit of edge to the secondary, and at the same time, you're not paying the kind of money that you were on Malcolm Butler's salary.
John, obviously the Titans paid big money to Bud Dupree to come in here and be a difference maker. The ACL injury that he had last year, we'll see how quickly he can recover and how quickly he's ready to go for the Titans once the season comes around. But what can having Bud Dupree and Danico Autry in the fold do for Jeffrey Simmons, in your opinion?
I think a lot. I think one of the things the Titans have lacked certainly is, kind of a push up the middle in terms of a pass rush. And I think that's one of the reasons that Daquan Jones, has not been re-signed yet. We don't know if he'll be re-signed. He's a great guy against the run, a tough guy to move in the middle, but at some point I think the Titans were looking for more push up the middle, and I think Danico Autry will help in that regard. I think the fact that opposing teams will have to worry about Danico Autry in both the run and the pass should free up Jeffrey Simmons to make more of that push up the middle as well. And, of course, as we know, the more push you get up the middle, the better your angles for the edge rushers, and vice versa. The better rush you get from the edge, the more the quarterback steps up, and those pocket guys can start getting some sacks too. So I think it's going to be kind of a complementary thing between Dupree and Autry. And, I agree with you. I think they'll both help out Jeffrey Simmons because less attention gets paid to him. But I still think, especially in terms of the edge, I think the Titans need some more depth there. And on the interior, if Daquan Jones doesn't come back, I still think they need one of those monster presences in the middle. I'm not sure if Pierre Tart is the guy yet in that regard, but certainly there's a lot of areas the Titans still need to improve. Some areas more critical than others, but there's a lot of areas that need shoring up, I think.
Okay, we're going to go to the veteran hockey scribe in you now, John.
Yes.
I need your take on Tim Peel and the fallout from that.
I think it was the right call by the NHL. I think either a very significant suspension for Tim Peel or termination. And basically, I guess, we've come to learn that Tim Peel was already going to be leaving the game, in another month or so anyway. So really, this just kind of hastened the departure. I think it had to be done. I don't think anybody who's watched enough NHL games doubts that referees at times do consciously or unconsciously try to balance things out. But it's one thing to think that, and it's another thing, to have a guy actually saying that, recorded, obviously on a hot mic. And if the NHL lets that kind of thing go, what is it saying? In every game after that, every fan is going to be wondering, hey, is this referee, trying to balance the game? Is he trying to affect the outcome of the game? Because we know the NHL doesn't care. We have a referee admitting that he was trying to balance the calls out on hot mic, and the NHL did nothing. So in this instance, I think the NHL did the right thing. And another factor you have to bring in there, too, is how much more sports gambling, I think, plays a role in all sports now, too. There's so much more prominence for gambling. And do I think Tim Peel was on the take? Was he trying to affect the game that way? Absolutely not. But you have to be very conscious of that now, too. And if there's any optics, if there's any perception that an official is trying to impact the game other than calling it straight the way he sees it, that's a bad optic to have, in terms of this day and age of gambling, too.
John Glennon from Broadway Sports has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. John, great job on the reporting of Isaiah Wilson yesterday, and thanks for taking time to join us on the show this morning, man. We appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's that time of the day, Joe Rexrode. Time for Pred's Pick to Click. Brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 to guess the goal scorer for the Nashville Predators as they take on the Red Wings tonight at home. If you are the first caller and you win, you will win a prize pack brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. We'll do that next. We'll see if I can get on the board as well. All that coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
strut, and the score!
Who's going to find the back of the net in tonight's Preds game? Robby and Rexrode make their picks to click and welcome a listener to do the same. Pick to Click is brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, the official vodka of the NHL.
And it is that time of the day, time for Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka here on Robby and Rexrode. Ryan Porth taking shots immediately when we come back from break at my ineptitude in this competition. Again, one goal.
He's got a huge lead over you.
One goal. He's over here just running his mouth.
Have you guys ever heard of the Gus Macker tournament?
No.
Never heard of Gus Macker? Gus Macker? You're Ohio, no? Okay.
Who?
Okay. Gus Macker is a 3-on-3. They actually they started in Michigan, but it became I used to go to these things like 20,000 people in Little Belding, Michigan. 3-on-3. Okay. It's half-court 3-on-3. There's other tournaments that have been like it.
Sure.
Anyway, played in a lot of Gus Mackers. So in the Gus Macker, and it's double elimination, if you lose your first game, then you go to the other bracket, which is the toilet bowl bracket. And if you win that, you get a toilet bowl trophy.
Oh, good.
If you win the actual tournament of your field, then you get a real trophy.
Sure.
You two are in the toilet bowl.
Thank you.
Okay. So in fact,
I'm leading.
I'm competing with. We have Kyle here.
Yes.
I'm competing with the listeners.
That's right.
In the top flight.
It's two different conferences.
And you two are in the toilet bowl.
That's right.
And I don't think Porth should be taking shots at you with a 1-goal lead.
I don't think he should either. All it takes is one, buddy.
And look, I think one is greater than 0.
That's true.
It's true, but I think I'm just telling you. I would try the Costanza route, but you do whatever you want to do.
I'll see what happens here. It is Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. The Predators taking on the Detroit Red Wings tonight at home. Puck drop at 7 o'clock, pregame at 6 o'clock here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. And with that in mind, let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in today's participant, Kyle in Nashville. Kyle, how you doing?
Great, man. How are you?
We are doing wonderful. Kyle, the Preds taking on the Red Wings again tonight, coming off a big win against Detroit on Tuesday. Your pick to click for tonight's game for the Predators is who?
It's not very flashy because he's the goals leader in the clubhouse, but I'm going to go Philip Forsberg.
I like it. Philip Forsberg selected again by the listeners. Kyle, good luck in the competition.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Hope you take down Joe Rexrode. Philip Forsberg, he's been on a roll once again by the listeners. Selected. Kyle taking Forsberg.
I mean, sometimes you just have to go with the obvious choice, right?
Sometimes.
Or almost all the time.
And that has been the case lately for the listeners. So, Joe Rexrode, in the rotation, you were up first with the pick today. Your Preds pick to click would be who?
Listen, it is the year of Yarn and Croak.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm rolling with Yarn Croak. And I'll say it again. I said it the other night. I'll put it out there again tonight. If he gets a hat trick, I'm buying a Yarn Croak jersey, and I will change my last name to Rex Croak.
Would it be
whoever came up on Twitter the other day with Rex Croak is brilliant.
It's pretty good.
Would it be Yo Rex Croak?
Maybe.
Yes, Yo Rex Croak, the year of Yo Rex Croak.
Yes.
Exactly. We like to go yogging while we listen to Soft Cell, Tainted Love.
Do you wear yoggers when you go yogging?
Right.
Noted goal scorer Calle Yarncroak selected in the competition. Ryan Porth, you are second in today's draft behind the listener and Joe Rexrode, so I guess third.
Go score 5 goals.
I'm going with Ryan Johansson.
Oh, Ryan Johansson.
It's not Johansson, it's Ryan Johansson. Hard J, he gets on the board tonight.
Hey, by the way, Poyle has said Johansson before. I've heard him say this on the air.
Maybe so.
I'm pretty sure it's Johansson.
It's Johansson.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying, I've heard David Poyle say Johansson.
Hey?
I've heard other people, too. It's not quite Mariota, but there's people around the league who mess that up.
Johansson.
Well, the NHL video game
calls him Johansson.
Forever has called him Johansson.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Is Marcus Johansson or Johansson?
He's now Johansson.
Is he
changed
really?
his name to Johansson.
Is he still in the league?
Yeah, man.
Huh? Who does he play with?
I can't remember. I think he's still in the league. He's not with Washington anymore. I know that.
There's a hard, soft J. We're talking about hard, soft cell. The hard, soft J thing in the league can get a little interesting.
All right, so
let's get to your pick. Come on.
All right,
you're gonna get it
y'all
done today.
Put me in a really bad spot here because there is an obvious of who I should select here, but if I do it, he's not going to score.
Right, you're getting to the point where you're hurting people.
Right,
Yeah.
like Eeli Tolvanen is there for the taking, and I should do it, and I can't. Give me Colton Sissons. Give me I'm going off the board, baby. Come on.
That's
off the board, on the board.
Give me Colton Sissons in this competition. I have willingly not selected Ellie Tolvanen for this, which means probably a couple power play goals tonight for number 28.
Which means he should thank you.
Yes, probably so.
I might actually take Tolvanen first goal tonight because he's in the first period going to make you regret
rip one.
Yeah.
5 minutes into the game, he is just going to rip one on the power play, and I'm going to fold up my computer and just chuck it out of my window. And I'm going to call it to you.
And then you won't have it to tweet your excitement when Sissons gets a hat trick in the third period alone.
Yeah, I won't. You're right. If I actually land one in this competition and get one right, I might pass out. I've been looking forward to it so much. I convinced myself the other night that when Johansson lofted that puck towards the empty net and it barely got over the blue line, I was like, this is going in, baby. Come on. This is it.
It had zero steam.
It had more backspin than a Tiger Woods chip shot. I mean, it was unbelievable.
If you even had just one right now, you'd probably be watching these games totally differently, wouldn't you?
Correct.
Like it'd be fine. It's not good, but
Yeah,
Port's over here all making fun of you. He has one.
Yeah.
See, it's just one.
I know.
1 goal difference.
I'm watching the games for 3 reasons right now. Number 1, it's my job. Number 2, I enjoy hockey. Number 3, I need to get on the board here.
But you're freaking out as you watch them. Like
there's some different excitement involved here as well, for sure.
Even more than, say, like, obviously people, you gamble on a game or something, people watch it differently. People watch the point spread of a game, right? Whatever the case may be, the over-under. But, like, you are totally invested in your goose egg and Pred's pick to click.
I cannot believe I just selected Colton Sissons.
I think it's great. I'm telling you, this is the George Costanza. Go against your instinct.
And he did
opposite of your instinct.
He did it on purpose. I know Port did it on purpose. Ellie Tolvanen was right there for the taking.
Left him on the platter.
I had the last pick in the draft today, and Port was like, watch this.
Well, it's a good test.
Yeah.
You passed.
Thank you.
And it may not work out, but...
Well, the odds are it won't.
But you know what? At this point, you got to try something different.
I agree.
You got to shake it up a little bit.
I wonder what the odds are right now for a Colton Sissons goal.
I don't know. I have to check the FanDuel Sportsbook coming up. Do you have it?
I'm about to.
Oh, okay. Well, update us with that here in a second.
I don't really root much watching sports. I am rooting every Colton Sissons shift tonight. I'm standing up. I'm going to do one of those things where you stand up and you stand close to the TV, like somehow that'll make something happen you want to happen.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 4 goals in the year. So it's not like he's just not scoring.
Right. No,
got his first assist the other night of the year.
Is that right?
Yeah. I couldn't believe
it. Philip Forsberg is plus 188.
Yep. What's Tolvanen?
Calle Yarncroke is plus 300. Okay. Ryan Johansson is plus 310. And Colton Sissons is plus 490.
Ooh.
What's Ellie Tolvanen?
Plus 280.
Great.
A little bit of a difference there.
This is awesome. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate texts in, early called shot. Robby will get his Preds pick to click the very last game with an empty net goal. So Nate saying this is going to drag out all season long. In the last game, I get it with an empty netter.
So the Preds are going to win the last game.
Yeah.
Will that be a playoff clinching win?
Maybe.
A playoff clinching win, and then you falling on the ground in tears as you get your first pick to click.
Let me ask you this. If I get the playoff clinching win and Porth and I are tied at 1, do I get the nod? Because it's
the tiebreaker?
Am I the tiebreaker because it's a more important goal?
I don't know. I might give you both a toilet bowl trophy if that's the case.
That is today's
Everybody gets a trophy.
Of Preds pick to click. Kyle selecting Philip Forsberg. Joe Rexrode taking noted goal scorer Calle Yarncroke. Ryan Porth. Ryan Johansson. So sticking with the Ryan theme there. I had Ellie Tolvanen on the table, and I took Colton Sissons, taking the advice of Joe Rexrode. We'll see how that works out.
If Ellie Tolvanen scores tonight, 100% he wouldn't have. And so, honestly, like you are impacting his career at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
Like at the very least, he should be looking like next year. If we're back in the locker room stuff, he should be giving you an exclusive every time you ask for one.
It probably, if it continues this way, needs to get to the point where John Hines contacts me before every game and kind of goes over who he'd like to see start to get going a little bit offensively, and then I'll just leave them off the table. And Pred's pick to click. Be like, you know what? I won't touch him.
Yeah. Or it may be to the point where you just need to stop talking about the team altogether.
Well, maybe so.
It might make things difficult, but I'm just saying.
Maybe that would be the phone call I'd receive. Hey, man, we appreciate what you do, but you wouldn't mind shutting up for a while.
Maybe just talk more football.
Yeah, let's see how that goes. Speaking of football, we'll get back into the Titans when we come back, taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. And speaking of the text line, 1025 The Game and T-Mobile have teamed up to help you continue the tradition with a hockey home gating party, and it's time to text in to the Game text line at 615-737-1025 for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Home Gate. You can watch a weekend Preds game with the Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. Just text the word SKATE to 615-737-1025. That's SKATE to 615-737-1025 now to enter. The winner will be contacted on Thursday. You must be 21 or older to enter. We'll be right back. Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porter with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. We welcome everyone watching on these various platforms. Joe Rexrode smiling for the camera, looking very good. Very, very good.
Sorry, I'm texting.
There's the mute.
No, that wasn't a mute. That was not.
That counts.
That was just a half. That was a millisecond late hitting it. It wasn't like I messed up and didn't realize it was off.
If you're a millisecond late snapping the ball, it's a delay of game penalty, my friend. It's a mute. 1-1.
Garbage. I'm giving you all this grace on your terrible Preds pick to click, and you're gonna.
You just convinced me to select Colton Sissons.
By the way, I think Jeremy K. Gover independently came up with Costanza too, because he tweeted it, and I was like, yeah, at first I thought he was just talking about what we were saying. I was like, yes, exactly, Costanza. So the Costanza,
it's a big thing.
It works, man. It works.
Well, we've got an emergency poll question right now at 1025 The Game on Twitter off of Preds Pick to Click, and this is R. Stanley NHL, which is me on Twitter, has picked Colton Sissons as his Preds Pick to Click tonight. Does Robby get on the board for the first time this season? We're very early in the voting. 13 votes are in. 85% say no. 15% say yes.
So the yeses are the same people who are saying bye?
Could be.
Someone actually
maybe big fans of Colton Sissons. Who knows?
That's true. Someone actually justified on the text line, like the buy vote, why the Preds should be buying right now. Because, again, I don't believe that it's an actual Preds fan who would say that right now.
Here's Robert, and he says, quote, I said buy, not necessarily for this year, but getting a head start on next year's free agency. If you got the money now, it's the best time to start stockpiling assets for next year. Get the players used to playing with the rest of the team. So saying you go ahead and get a head start on free agency, bring some players in, and get them used to playing with the team already. So you can have a head start on next year.
Okay, buy means you give up assets for veterans, usually on expiring deals.
Right. So I guess he's saying you bring them in and then you re-sign them.
Okay.
I don't know. That's probably not the route I'd go.
Yeah, but it's not really like buy. It's not what buy means. Like, I mean, if you want to go in the off season and sign free agents, great. But if you're trading now, I mean anyway.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, you stand firm. With new rules for the draft, there's going to be a chance for the lottery. We're close to the 4th spot. The worst case is we get better draft odds. The best case, you have a better shot at the playoffs. Do not buy, for the love of God.
Yeah, I mean, again, assets are, to me, when we talk about that in this context, it's draft capital and it's young players.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm so flustered by this, but someone trying to justify buying, it's
well, you
messing with my brain.
Well, you talked about on the poll question today that the way that there was 8% last time we checked that said the Predators should buy, and you said none of those can possibly be Preds fans. We've proven to you that that's not the case.
Yeah.
So you asked people to text in.
That's Robert?
Robert. And you asked people to text in if they were Predators fans that wanted to buy, and Robert did that. And he's not alone.
I mean, but let's also acknowledge that Robert could still be a Blues fan trolling us and pretending to be a Preds fan. I mean, it's possible.
It's possible, but it's unlikely.
Also, Robert, I would like to ask you, are you an active member of Preds Facebook?
I mean, Robert did end the text by saying go Preds. So
well, then that proves it then.
It doesn't.
I'm satisfied.
I'm just saying. That's an elaborate scheme. If you feel like we're being hoodwinked.
I think, this happens. I mean, they've got entire television shows about being catfished,
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
I mean,
can't trust everything you read.
Heidi may be a Lions fan. We don't know.
Could be.
We don't know for sure.
We don't. We'll continue.
I don't know where we're going from here.
I don't know either. We'll continue to keep you monitored on the text line, taking your thoughts all show long. 615-737-1025. Hal Gill coming up at 9:30. We'll get back into the Nashville Predators with them. Want to talk Tennessee Titans. We had John Glennon on for Broadway Sports at 8:30, and it's interesting. Like, you look at the free agent pool right now that the Titans have gone into, and there are all sorts of opinions all over the map. Some people feel like the Titans are in better shape now. Some people feel like the Titans are in worse shape now than they were before the offseason began. John of the opinion that he likes what they've done in free agency so far and that he could see this working out. Now, obviously, the picture is not yet complete, and we've talked about that several times here on the show. If you're operating under the standpoint that you believe the Titans are better as is right now, where do you think that comes from? What do you think your justification is for that? Because I still look at this team right now, and I'm not convinced they're better. I think there are a lot of holes left to be filled.
Yeah, I don't think they're better. I do think that they could be better. I mean, they could be better if they draft well, which we won't know. But what's going to happen is they're going to have a draft, and they're going to take a receiver who might be really good, and they're going to take a corner who might be really good, and they're probably going to take an edge kind of high, I would think. And then all of a sudden that looks certainly better. That group will look better. And they're going to take all these draft picks, and, I mean, look, their teams get graded after the draft, but let's be realistic. In every particular market, how many times do teams have a draft, and in that market it's like, what have you done? I mean, it's all players who could be good in the league. Hey, I like the Isaiah Wilson pick last April, especially after his interview with us.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's great. So you don't know, but right at this moment, are they worse? Yes. Right at this moment, would we have expected them to be worse? Yeah. I mean, if I had to guess one way or the other, I think you had to know with the money and just with the contract situation with some of the guys who have moved on that it was going to be headed toward you better draft like a demon, right? Yeah. So I don't think there's anything that surprising about right now. I think they're a little bit worse. I do think that if you invested big, again, Autry is going to be my number one thing that they did, and Dupree could end up being really good. I will say it also on Dupree because I was down on him compared to like a Matt Judon. You watch a player more when a move is made.
Sure.
And he is a fun guy. I had a text exchange with Jared, by the way. All he does is sack. That's not true. Actually, I never thought that was true anyway. He is good against run. He does set the edge. He is a player who plays with great effort. Now, that's true of Landry also. Landry still, the Titans want more as a pass rusher. Dupree has been paid to be a double-digit sack guy, and I don't know if he will be. But I like his addition in terms of just the overall approach to football.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that probably as well as I probably should have before they signed him.
Well, and when you really do a deep dive and study into it, to your point, he's more than just a sacker of the quarterback. He does set the edge well. He's good in the run game as well. The concerns I had about Bud Dupree heading into this process were, all right, he's coming off an ACL injury. How long is that going to take to recover? Does he come back the same? And what does he look like away from TJ Watt? I mean, those were my two main concerns. I'm still concerned about both of those things. But as I've watched some tape on Bud Dupree, as I've seen some highlights, and really as I've thought about it more, I think the ACL thing used to be a lot bigger deal than it is now. People come back from that all the time, and it looks like they don't miss a beat. Now, maybe it is a little different on the edge rushing part of this when you're bending the way they're bending, and you've got to have a good bend to your game. You've got to be able to be flexible, and that has to be at full strength. It's different from some other positions recovering from an ACL. So I think you're concerned about that if you're a Titans fan. But based on some of the highlights I've seen, I don't really care who's across from him. That guy can rush the passer. And I think you need to be excited about that if you're a Titans fan. And you got to realize if you're Bud Dupree, you're getting paid a lot of money. You're getting paid as an elite defensive player in this league. The expectations are going to be and should be very high for him. And it's about time a Titans edge rusher or a rusher of any kind lives up to some expectations. That's what this defense needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And he plays with abandon. That's the thing that I think is exciting. He's fun to watch. So, but you're right about the ACL. Obviously, it really is treated like an ankle sprain at times in sports. And you're right. That position, there are things that you have to do. When you're rushing the passer, you better have strong knees. But also when you're 260-plus pounds, it still is different than, like a 195-pound receiver, getting an ACL tear. So he said last week that he expects to be all full go by camp, and that would be big. I mean, he suffered the injury on December 2nd, so it's not like that's a absolute slam dunk on that day. I mean, that means a really good rehab.
Is your bracket been busted so far in the tourney? And let's be honest, it probably has. If so, make sure you enter the 16-team Game Bracket Challenge to win great prizes. Go to thegamenashville.com to sign up now to play. The Game Bracket Challenge is brought to you by Volunteer Hose and Gasket, European Collision Repair, Cool Springs Wine and Spirits, and Coach's Corner Sports Grill. So make sure you head to thegamenashville.com and sign up to play. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Tennessee Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Also got a text from Heidi in Dixon to get to as well. So that's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Preds fans, join 102.5 The Game on Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. for Smashville Live. Smashville Live airs every Wednesday on 102.5 The Game during the Preds season and will feature Preds players, former players, and other special guests. You can also watch the show online via 102.5 The Game's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and thegamenashville.com. Smashville Live brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. To view or listen to past shows, go to thegamenashville.com/Smashville Live. Vern Fiddler on the show last night on Smashville Live. So if you missed that, make sure you hit it up at thegamenashville.com/Smashville Live. Going to have Hal Gill, Preds radio analyst, joining us at 9:30. We'll look ahead to the matchup tonight between the Predators and the Red Wings with him. So looking forward to that conversation. Right now, talking Tennessee Titans, all things free agency on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Taking your reaction, 615-737-1025, 1025. Heidi and Dixon text in and says, if only Jadeveon Clowney sniffed the quarterback as many times as Joe mutes himself, what a player he'd be. How about that?
One time today, and it's actually in question.
But let's not act like the one time today is out of the norm. Like it happens a lot.
What's my weekly average of
so we've got
issues?
5 shows per week. I would say throughout a given week around 7.
I was going to say over under 7.5.
Yeah.
I think it was that way a while ago.
I mean, there's been some improvement.
I mean,
for sure.
I think we've gone through weeks.
Well,
have we gone through a week with none? I don't know, but I bet you we've gone through weeks with like 1 or 2 in a whole week.
I'll say this: when he was on Zoom, it was right around 12, 13, probably the weekly average.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's just. I mean, I could have just left the mic open the whole time as I'm, making coffee or
you could have
yelling at kids.
Yes,
That
you could have.
Next time that happens, I will.
Hey, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Anytime Rexrode can yell.
Dogs going nuts.
Yeah. Hey, we love you, though.
I'm getting better, is the point.
Well, speaking of Clowney, visiting the Cleveland Browns yesterday as well. Now, we know the Browns had some interest in Jadeveon Clowney last offseason. Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports, who joins us every week here on the show Tuesdays at 9 o'clock, said a big-time offer from the Browns last year in free agency, $18 million roughly in that neighborhood per season. A multi-year deal on the table for Jadeveon Clowney. So it's obvious the Browns have liked Clowney. They've been interested in Clowney. Now visiting with the Browns again. Do you think he ends up there? Because there have been Titans fans that have floated the idea of maybe bringing Clowney back as the number 3 on the edge rusher for the Titans. Could be an option they pursue.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I've completely rejected that idea from the start. I've rejected the idea that he'd be back unless they couldn't find a big-ticket player.
Right.
And maybe it's like, well, see if maybe he's healthy and maybe he can be the guy we thought when we paid him $13 million a year ago. But as a 3, I mean, Jadeveon, he's not doing that, and he doesn't have to make that choice either.
Right.
Because someone's still going to pay him something. Can't wait to see the number. But, no, he's not your 3, and that's not going to happen, and I don't think it was ever realistic at all.
I don't think it was either. And I just wonder what that number is going to look like for him. Because to me, like, based on his injury history, I'm not paying that guy more than like $5 million. That's me. Now, there is going to be a team that pays him more than $5 million. I recognize that. I'm interested to see what exactly that number ends up at. Like, if it's Cleveland, how high are they willing to go? If you offered him $18 million per season last year, how high are you willing to go for Jadeveon Clowney?
I think you start by cutting that in half.
Yeah.
And even that to me is too much. Because again, I know I'm the Clowney guy from a year ago. I'm the only one. Everybody else in this market was like, "Oh, what are you doing, Titans?" But in all
to his
seriousness,
credit, Jared was.
Yeah, well, whatever. Jared gets 1 out of a million right. It's fine. Buy a ladder, Jared.
Yes.
That's all I got now.
Thank you.
I will say though that if you're the Browns, you have to. It's weird because you got to feel like, oh man, how bad could that have been if we were to sign him to a 2-year, $36 million deal with 23 guaranteed or whatever it was going to be. So if you want to go down that road again, I think you can get away. Like if Clowney gets like 8 from somebody, 8-9 range. To me, it's too much because of the latest injury. At some point, the age and the injuries pile up, and you're like, okay, things go off a cliff all the time for guys in this league, all the time. But 8-9, I could see that. I won't be surprised if anyone pays him 8 figures. That's just amazing to me. I don't know. I mean, it's just like. They just keep watching replays of that hit against Michigan in the ball game. I don't know.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keith has texted in with another nickname for Rexrode, this time Joe Davion. What do you think of that? Fourth likes it, apparently.
Joe Davion. Rexrode. I think that's...
Just combine your love for Clowney and Yarncroke, yes.
Joe Davion, Rexrode.
Look, most of the time,
40-something basketball savant.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, people they have fun with your last name. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do with your last name.
Yeah.
But Joe Davion, I like that. Keith gets bonus points for using your first name.
That's very good, Keith. I like it. Let's also give me credit, because I don't think we give me nearly enough credit on this show.
Probably not.
For a great moment in radio history, asking John Robinson about Cladavian Jowney a year ago.
Yes. The great Cladavion Jowney.
He snorted in approval.
Oh, man.
Before not answering again about Clowney. But we all knew he was signing Clowney.
The text line's been popping today with some great stuff. I mean, the people have talked about your athletic prowess. I mean, it's been pretty unbelievable to watch here on the text line. Adam in Portland on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I bet Joe Rexrode can bring in all the groceries from the car in one try every single time. # old man competition. People got a lot of faith in you today.
As long as there's not like an unwieldy beverage situation.
Yeah.
You know,
I make it a goal of mine to bring it in every time.
Like a big thing
Powerade
of
bottle?
these. Yeah, like an 8-pack of the Powerades or something, or some pop. We call soda pop on this show, right, Robby?
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. We'll have to have that debate one day.
We will.
But other than that, I do take pride in trying to gather it all together. Unless I'm just making my sons get all the groceries and I'm sitting on my butt watching television.
See, I'm just glad the people have got faith in you. You got Joe Davion, that's good stuff, and people got faith in your athletic prowess too. So lots of love today for Joe Rexrode on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We did have somebody text in earlier, going back into the Titans, about the idea of trading up for Devontae Smith. They're trying to go after one of these big-name wide receivers. The three we talk about all the time, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. I understand the temptation to do that if you're a Titans fan, and because I think all three of those guys are going to be very, very good at the NFL level. I don't think that's very likely for the Titans. I mean, we've talked about going and getting more picks, not trading up and cutting those picks, down to less.
Yeah, I would think that if there was a trade-up scenario, and I think it's the least likely of the three being stand pat at 22, trade down, trade up. I think trade-up's the least likely, but if there was a trade-up, I think it would be to grab a corner. And it is interesting that John Robinson and Mike Vrabel were both at J.C. Horn's Pro Day, which apparently was quite impressive. He's an example of someone I think certainly fits what they might be looking for. Now, that might be a trade-up, 4 or 5 spots to get him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe his Pro Day, along with Caleb Farley now potentially dropping because of his injury, maybe J.C. Horn is a little bit out of their reach. But, if you're going to trade up high enough to get – if you're going to trade up in the top 10, which is what you have to do to get one of those receivers, I think, you're giving up quite a bit, and this team needs picks. This team needs rookies on good deals who come right in and help. And you've got to get a corner. You've got to get a receiver. I think you have to get an edge. Yeah, I think you have to get a tight end. And so if you could get 5 in the top 100 – then that would be better than 3 in the top 100 with a Devontae Smith. I like to hey, no one's going to say, hey, I don't want Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle on my team, but I think you can get a good receiver lower and end up better off overall. And we know who I am advocating for them to choose.
Yes, we do.
I'm a Big Ten homer all the way on this
Big
one.
Rondale Moore fan here on the program. Well, it's interesting. You brought up J.C. Horn and has his Pro Day yesterday. And, we've talked a lot about Patrick Surtain from Alabama here on the show as well. But, the measurables, when you compare them side by side, and Matt Miller did this yesterday on Twitter, J.C. Horn, pretty good. He's a little shorter, a little bit smaller, faster in the 40, higher vertical.
Read the numbers.
Bigger broad jump. You're talking about a 41.5-inch vertical. It's pretty good for a cornerback. So, look, I think sometimes we get caught up too much in the measurables and the combine and the pro days and all that stuff. The tape, to me, is the most important thing. J.C. Horn is going to be a name that you hear a lot about moving forward here, and I don't know that he's going to be there by the time pick number 22 comes around, but if he is, I think that's a route you could see the Titans end up going.
Yeah, we do get too caught up in the measurables, but then I'd also think of a couple years ago when DK Metcalf ran in Indy, and I was like, yeah, okay, but everybody's going to go nuts, and can the guy play?
Turns out he can play.
Yeah, he can play too. Rondale Moore, by the way, 42 and a half on the vert.
He's a little
Imagine
shorter.
if you got J.C. Horn and Rondale Moore going against each other in practice,
just jumping around
playing
out
above
there.
the rim, you know? That'd be fun at least to watch him practice.
It absolutely would. When we come back, we will switch gears and get back into the Nashville Predators. We'll be joined by Preds radio analyst Hal Gill. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, and streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Looking ahead tonight to the Predators taking on the Detroit Red Wings. Puck drop at 7 o'clock, pregame at 6 o'clock here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Preds radio analyst Hal Gill, presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belle Meade, and TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Skillsy, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm doing all right. Just enjoying this beautiful day here in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, it really is lovely outside. Everybody is careful today as the weather continues to come in. Skillsy, let's start with kind of the news that's taken over the NHL over the last couple of days, stemming from the Preds game the other night. Obviously, we all know by now Tim Peel no longer officiating in the NHL, got caught on the hot mic, and that's led Skillsy to a larger discussion about the way the game is officiated and the place in the game for makeup calls. As a former player who spent a lot of time in this league, what's kind of your thought on this and the conversation going on right now about makeup calls and where they stand and their place in the game?
Well, first of all, the Tim Peel incident is tough because, first, he shouldn't be mic'd up. I mean, he's having a conversation. They're trying to manage a game, and it's a bad look, but it happens all the time. I mean, these refs are trying to manage a game, and that's the frustrating part for me is I've seen this over and over again where the refs are having conversations with each other, with the players. They're saying, hey, the game's getting chippy. I'm gonna call it. They'll let you get away with one slash or a hook, but then they'll say, hey, if it happens again, I'm going to call it. And then they call it. They're really managing how the game is played and allowing the players to be physical and hard. But then at some point they have to say, all right, I gave them one penalty. I'm going to give you guys one if you do anything similar. And so that's where the makeup call comes in, and that's what they have to deal with is moving through the game. There's going to be times where they say, hey, I kind of let that one go. I have to call this one. And I think that's really what Tim Peel was trying to say is, I didn't like that initial call I made, so I have to make one against Nashville. And it's simple as that. And they're talking to the players the whole way through. That's just the way the game is played. They're working with the players and working with the game. So it's not as clear-cut as that's a call or that isn't. It's that simple. And I feel bad for Tim Peel. He's had a great career, and he's going to retire this year. And this is the way he goes out. I don't think that's fair.
So do you think any of this needs to change, Hal? Because I hear what you're saying on talking with players, and I agree. I mean, it's human beings doing this stuff, and there is a bigger picture than just, straight up that's a penalty or that is not a penalty. But I also like the idea of, this team has had 4 power plays and this team has had none, so we better – like that to me is a little bit different than what you're talking about. But do you think there is a problem at large with officiating this league?
No, I have been nothing but impressed with how good the officiating is, and I really think it's hard because you're saying, okay, they got 4, and you talk about even the marbles out in their pockets. They're trying to say, all right, we gave them 4 power plays. It's not always going to be even, but I think they want to respect the game and respect that, all right, this team, we gave them 4 power plays. We probably should give them 1 or 2, even if it's not warranted. And I know that sounds awful, but that's just human nature, and that's the way the game goes. If you're on the ice, the players are all calling for it. They're all saying, hey, you gave them 4 power plays. How about us? How about us? And there's those conversations that are going on. So I think it's part of the human nature of an athlete to look for a makeup call. And I think it's part of refereeing to say, all right, if you're going to work for it, I'm going to give you one. And that's the way it goes. And so people don't like that. And, when I say it, I'm like, it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And that's the way the game is. And it's a human game. And so I just think it's unfair to say it's as clear-cut as people want it to be.
Yeah, and Hal, to that point, like some of the reaction yesterday on social media, I mean, Matt Duchene had comments on our show that made their way around social media yesterday, and just some of the reaction to this situation in general has been, all right, the officials should just call the game how the rule book is written, and that should be how it is. And I think people, when they say that, they believe that in theory. I think you and I both know, like, if you start calling the game exactly how the rule book is written, you're going to be calling a whole lot of penalties throughout the course of a hockey game, and that's going to take away from the 5-on-5 for sure. So I think sometimes maybe it sounds great in theory, but when you actually apply it to reality, that's not what's good for the growth of the game.
No, exactly. And just to my experience, I've played against, usually my job was to play against the best players. My defensive role was to try to abuse the best players and hit them and slash them. And I've had, pretty much my job every game was to push the limit of the referee, right? So I'd say I'd be in the, if a guy came in the crease, I was cross-checking him. I was slashing him in the corner, and the ref would come up and say, you know what, Hal, that's enough. You've gone too far. Next time it happens, I'm going to call it. And so the next time I go in the corner, even if I gave him a little one, maybe not a penalty as it should be called, he'd say, I told you, I warned you, and I'm giving you that call. And so I knew that game. I knew how it worked. And these players, if they don't know how it works, and they're not doing their job right. And so some of the calls, I'd say probably 50% of the calls that I got called on were because I did it, maybe the period before, maybe even the game before, where they said, hey, I let you get away with it last game. I'm not letting you get away with it anymore. And so they call something that maybe shouldn't be a penalty. They call it because I've been warned. And so that goes throughout the whole season. And you learn to deal with different refs. And, some refs will let you play a little more. Others won't. And you learn how to deal with that. So I think that's what everyone is missing. And this whole thing is the way the whole season works. You're working with these refs, and in large part, you're doing that to make a good game. And the refs have to try to make the game competitive and good. And that's what they're out there to try to do, not just.
We had Matt Duchene on yesterday, and he, to paraphrase, was basically like, I hope this doesn't happen a lot, but some nights you're skeptical. I'm wondering if just like being conversational on the ice, being more engaged or more active in talking with officials, is that something that benefits a player? Is that something that you would say you would advocate for a player? Like, get into the discussion with these guys, and maybe it'll be more fair for you.
Yeah, and let's remember, Duchene is the guy who's taking the hits. He's a different player than I am, right? He's out there saying, come on, guys, you got to call this. I'm getting destroyed out here. And, the biggest thing for him is, like, when should I embellish a call? If he keeps getting hit, he's got to go down to show the ref that, like, hey, look, did you see he hit me hard enough to put me down? Well, then the ref goes, hey, you can't embellish it. It's the same thing for me. I always said, hey, that guy's getting close to our crease. He's in to our goalie. If I don't hit him, you better protect me and protect my job by saying, all right, that's goaltender interference, or he was in the crease, or whatever the case may be. I'm talking to the ref saying, hey, if I'm not allowed to hit him, you better make sure that he's not going in and disrupting my goalie. And so we're all having those conversations, and that's what people don't see. With the live mic, you're starting to see a little bit more of it, but those conversations are going on all the time.
Preds radio analyst Hal Gill on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hal, last thing for you here. The Predators taking on the Red Wings again tonight. They've won 4 out of their last 5, and all of a sudden they find themselves just 4 points out of the final playoff spot in the Central Division. How have they been able to turn this thing around, both on the road trip and in the first game back at home? What stood out to you, and what do you like about the way the Predators are playing right now?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You get 4 points back. Chicago, I think, is in Florida. And so, hopefully, it works out where you get a win tonight. You're 2 points back playing against the team you're competing for. It's a big difference. And I think in large part, you look at the injuries that the Preds have had, and you're missing Yossi and Ellis. And I think with that, you had a bunch of players that said, hey, we got to help out these young D. We got to come back. And Coach Hines has talked about the 5-man defense, everyone coming back, everyone playing defense, and then transitioning to offense as a secondary thing. And I know that sounds like a simple thing to do, but when you have guys like Yossi and Ellis back there, you know, hey, I might look for the stretch pass because he's going to hit me, and all of a sudden you have that separation. I think they've really dialed in what their team game is, and now you add Yossi back in. Hopefully you get Ellis soon, and all of a sudden you're saying, all right, we're close to a playoff spot, and we're going to make that push with healthy players. I'd be pretty excited if I was in that locker room right now. Things are turning up. You're playing the right way, and you're going to get healthy. Things could turn around. It could be a lot of fun down the stretch.
Preds radio analyst Hal Gill has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belmead, and TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Hal, appreciate you taking time to join us. Loved your perspective as a former player, and have fun on the call tonight.
All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy the game.
Absolutely. Hal Gill, that was really interesting stuff. We'll react to some of that when we come back. Also revisit the poll question of the day as well. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
What up, Darren, Donick, and Chase coming up at 10 o'clock here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Chase McCabe here with you. We got a big show on tap. Joe Rexrode of Robby and Rexrode and The Athletic is going to join us at 10:15. At 11, Tim Hasselbeck, he had to reschedule from yesterday, ESPN NFL analyst. We'll get into what the Titans have done in free agency and the NFL as a whole. At noon, Rob Rang, we'll talk draft with him because it is approaching. So he will join us for our weekly draft segment. And then 1 o'clock, Elliot Friedman, the fallout of Tim Peel, and much, much more. Tune in starting at 10 right here on ESPN 102.5. The Game for Darren, Donick, and Chase with Darren McFarland, Willie Donick, yours truly, Chase McCabe, and, of course, producer extraordinaire Elijah Campbell.
Hey, it's time to save some cash fast. It's the 102.5 The Game deal of the week from Grain and Berry in Hillsboro Village. Go to thegamenashville.com right now to get half off a $20 gift card. Grain and Berry is Nashville's superfood cafe where healthy meets delicious. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Thanks to Hal Gill, Preds radio analyst, for joining us in the last segment. And, Joe, it's fascinating. I mean, you're talking about Howell, a guy that played over 1,000 games in this league, a Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He has seen it all in this league. And albeit, like, the style of defenseman in the game has changed a little bit since Howell was in the league. And it started to get that way later in his career while he was with the Predators. But Howell kind of grew up in a different era of playing defense in this league. But certainly, I mean, to me, a guy that, if you know Howell at all, very boisterous. He's going to let his opinion be known. I'm sure conversations between him and officials have just been awesome for the decades that he was playing this game. But it's been interesting to kind of gauge the different reactions of players to this Tim Peel news. We had Duchesne on yesterday, Hal Gill's reaction there, some more players around the league as well, former players, with a lot of different thoughts. They're kind of all over the map on this. That to me has been really interesting to see how players, both current and former, have viewed this situation with Tim Peel and the officiating.
Yeah, because like Duchesne and Hal were both very good on the topic. We're very different on the topic.
Yeah.
Duchesne's sort of like, more like, man, I hope this isn't all the time. And Hal's like, yeah, it's all the time.
Yeah.
But I still think there's a difference between, I think a lot of what Hal was talking about, it makes sense, and it's how it should be. I mean, an interaction, and again, like, okay, you're close. I mean, all that stuff, football,
yeah,
and basketball, anything. I mean, you can, any of those three sports, and you take it to soccer too, I would think, sort of, hey, you're close, I'm calling you next time. I don't have any problem with that.
Me either.
I have a problem with a team kicking the butt of another team, and maybe there's just a player or two they can't deal with, and they keep taking penalties because they can't. And then this impulse of, oh, gosh, the penalties are a little too uneven. That
shouldn't be that way.
That's garbage, I mean, sometimes or take it to basketball. Willie was talking yesterday about a Kentucky-Vanderbilt game when he played, and I think he said it was like 51-17 free throw disparity, and Rick Pitino going nuts about it. And it's like, well, sometimes a team takes it to the hole on a team, and the other team's shooting jumpers.
Stop fouling.
Right. I mean, sometimes that's just a reflection of you getting killed. Also, in basketball, foul disparity, you can have 10, 12 free throws at the end of a game because you're behind, and you keep fouling the team on purpose. Usually the coach complaining never mentions that, but just the idea of evening something up just because of the number, that is my problem.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and that's why I brought this up with Hal. Like, I think there's always going to be, and I saw the blowback of this on Twitter yesterday, like, officials should just call the game the way the rule book is written. And that sounds great. That sounds like that's what every official should do. But if you do that, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to have a ton of penalties taking place, or the game is going to change fundamentally to the point where
no contact.
You're not really hitting anybody.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to see either one of those things if you're a fan. So I saw a lot of that yesterday on Twitter of, well, the officials should just call the game the way the rule book is written. And again, that sounds great. In reality, that can't be the way this thing works, because you're talking about a completely different game at that point.
Yeah, you don't want that. You want the balance of, I mean, it's a little bit, again, I'll take it to basketball. I keep doing this with hockey to basketball, but the freedom of movement thing in college basketball has been a big thing. Let's be like the NBA and have more freedom of movement. The problem is it becomes all these hand checks, and then it becomes 1-1 with 12 minutes left to go in the first. No one wants to watch that garbage.
Yeah.
So the idea is at some point, I guess they'll just let people score and plenty of defense, which also sucks to me. Like, you need to have balance, and in hockey, you still, it's good that they've cleaned up some things they've cleaned up in hockey, but I don't want hitting out of the game or physicality out of the game. And also, like you said, I don't want nothing but power plays throughout a game. So it's a balance, and all that stuff makes sense. It's just the just looking at the scoreboard, or looking at counting up, like, oh, this team has this many, this team has this many. Yeah, better call it.
Right.
That doesn't have to be a part of it to me. It doesn't have to be.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate has called in, wants to weigh in on this topic. Nate, thanks for calling into Robby and Rexrode.
What's up, guys? I think we are discussing the wrong thing. No one is really all that outraged about makeup calls. We all know it happens. It's the fact that it was brought to light by an official over TV is the main issue, I think. Also, what I asked this to Jared and Ian yesterday, did Tim Peel sound to y'all after that incident that he thought he was going to get in some major trouble? Because I was listening to the radio, and it seemed like after that, his voice changed when he would make calls. Like, oh, no, I screwed up. I'm done.
Well, I don't know. I mean, thanks for the call, Nate. I didn't hear much of Tim Peel after that. I'm not sure how aware he was of everything that was going on. Like, I'm sure he was aware he probably got caught on the hot mic at some point. But, I mean, he wasn't on Twitter scrolling through, seeing what the reaction was. So, I don't know. I don't know
as you know.
As far as I know. Like, yeah, maybe he was. Maybe Tim Peel's got a burner account.
But to the point there, yeah. I mean, obviously, the outrage is that it's said out loud like that, the way it is. But I think it brings to light, okay, so what is the situation? That's the conversation now is, so what is it really? Does it need to change? Can it change? Does the NHL want it to change? Or is this a fake tough guy thing where, hey, we had a chance for a guy who's leaving to look tough and get him out of there. Now we'll just move on and pretend that everything's okay. I got to get to my text line real quick.
Okay.
Darren McFarland has won the toilet bowl in the Gus Macker. Thank you, D-Mac, for letting us know.
That's good.
In Cleveland.
Very nice. I guess we should probably get to
Pred's Pick to Click,
our updates of the poll question of the day. And we had an emergency poll question as well. So let's start with the emergency poll question at 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley has picked Colton Sissons as his Pred's Pick to Click tonight. Does Robbie get on the board for the first time this season? 70% say no. 30% say yes. That's a pretty high number.
Yeah. I think because you finally embraced the summer of George.
Yes.
That some people have belief. I do too. I think Sissons is scoring tonight.
Do you?
I do.
I cannot tell if you're serious.
I know. I'm serious. I am rooting.
I'm sure you
every
are.
Sissons shift.
That's right.
And it's going to be, this is the first day of the rest of your life, Robbie.
Are you going to be sitting at home tonight, Joe, and Sissons hits the ice, and you're like, Colton Sissons? Like, are you going to be rooting that hard?
I expect video.
I might. Maybe I will. I wasn't going to, but now that you did that, it sounded so good.
Well,
I might have to.
Speaking of expecting video, I expect video of Robbie's reaction to a Colton Sissons goal tonight, or Eeli Tolvanen.
Oh, Eeli Tolvanen's going to score on his first shot of the game.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen too. Tolvanen's going to score, and you're going to feel bad, but you should feel good because you didn't screw him over by picking him. And then later in the game, in fact, it might be the game winner from Colton Sissons. I'm feeling the game winner from Colton Sissons.
Well, whenever it happens, whenever I get the first one, and it's probably mighty, assumptuous of me to say I'm going to get a first one at this point, but if that does happen, I need it to be a huge goal. Like, propels them into the playoffs type goal. So we'll see if we can make that work. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. Darren, Donick, and Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 102.5 The Game.